Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Unacademy. This is Success Sampath interacting with you. Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to become IAS, IPS, IFS, IRS? We Unacademy, with top educators of India and meticulously designed quality content, we're waiting for you, waiting to shape you especially so that you realize your dream, your goal. You know very well about Unacademy. This is India's largest and the best online education platform. What are all the benefits you're likely to get once you enroll yourself in Unacademy? If this is your question, ladies and gentlemen, you got daily live classes. You can chat with your educator, and you can also participate in all-round productive discussions. And you can also ask all your genuine doubts and participate in the answer polls. All these things you can do when the session's going on. And you got structured courses. The structured courses, when I say, ladies and gentlemen, it is completely based on your UPSC examination pattern as well as syllabus, so that we ensure you will never get deviated from the expected framework. It's that way. Not only that, it's not knowing the stuff, knowing to deliver the stuff, you know well, because delivery matters. Right. I think it's it right. Right. So, that it's not what you deliver, rather, how do you deliver? For that, ladies and gentlemen, we got a mechanism to evaluate your preparation at various stages, especially, by conducting regular mock tests, space programs, and you also get, a detailed report analysis based on your performance. You come to know where you are strong, where you are weak. Not only that, the time you have taken in consuming, in solving a particular question. Ladies and gentlemen, once you enroll yourself in an academy, you got unlimited access towards that live and recorded videos. And you can also learn from anywhere, anytime, whatever may be your electronic device, whether it is a mobile phone, laptop, even desktop. So, welcome to Unacademy once again to avail all these benefits. And what you have to do for that, please download Unacademy Learning app immediately. That is Android, iOS, ladies and gentlemen. Once you download the app, you are ready to access all the benefits we enlisted so far. Who is this Success Sampath interacting with you? Yes, the Success Sampath, from Chennai, no doubt. And with unique experience, got exposed to the field of, engineering, management, and legal education. With 25 years of experience in the field of coaching and shaping the careers of civil service aspirants. With my team, I could witness, 250 plus results, ladies and gentlemen, as IAS, IPS, that IRS, IFS officials working in different parts of India and some of the offices, in abroad as well. And you can also ask me, sir, what's your vision? Ladies and gentlemen, my vision is to be part of solution, to provide career solution, especially by enabling youths of India to begin with, later to embrace the global community. Fortunately, this particular vision of mine is completely in alignment with that Unacademy's vision. We are working together to shape you, right? So that you realize your dream. Ladies and gentlemen, you can also reach me, through Telegram as well as that YouTube channel using my ID, say Success Sampath, even Sampath Tiruvengidam. I think it is right time, that let me take you to the next level. It's not only me, more than 100 plus top educators of India waiting to shape you, part of Unacademy, ladies and gentlemen. And you got, under UPSC Civil Services Examination, more than 15,000 courses, subject-specific module, duration-specific module. You choose, according to your convenience and budget. Under UPSC Civil Service Examination, we have devised, the two major programs, say Plus program and Iconic program. So the very Plus program, of course, if you ask me, you got live classes, test series, unlimited practice sessions, even structured schedule mechanisms. Here you can go for 12 months program or 24 months program. Ladies and gentlemen, you can also use my referral code, say Success, to avail maximum 10% discount. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. And more than this plus program, we strongly recommend you to go for iconic program. Here you will be allotted a personal coach, a mentor, understand your nature, and also to suggest that a feedback based on your nature. And not only that, that you will be trained every day in terms of answer writing practices. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So more than plus, the very iconic program, it has got its own advantages. So here too you have 12 months program, 34 months program. Please use my referral code, say success, to avail maximum 10% discount. Ladies and gentlemen, please go for this iconic program where you will get that more benefits, because it's going to be the 25 to 30 years of wonderful career, part of bureaucracy that demands your passions. At least minimum 2 years you have to devote yourself. This iconic program is highly suitable for that. If you ask me, technically if you work out in terms of your payment, of course, that it's going to be 80 to 100 rupees if you calculate in terms of per day basis. Not even the consumption towards your evening, that snacks expenditure, but you ensure your career. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it is right time, that let me take you to the very purpose of our interaction today. Yes. This is in continuation of the, the various discussions we had in the past. Of course, that we exposed you, we gave you, shared with you the grand strategy to score more marks in sociology. And also, that, well, we spoke about, the perspectives on the part of sociology. And also we took you to the level of, thinkers, the global thinkers, especially the founding fathers of sociology, you can call them, maybe you call, the Karl Marx, Max Weber, Emile Durkheim, Talcott Parsons, R.K. Merton, then G.H. Mead, George Herbert Mead. So apart from that, we also introduce you, that basic concepts in terms of society, community, social group like. And in another set, we also took you to the culture and associated concepts. Ladies and gentlemen, and that it is in that particular continuity, and we are going to introduce you some more basic concepts. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand, once you are very comfortable in the basic keywords, because this is all about your understanding. Once you are very comfortable in terms of that the keywords, you won't find problem in terms of understanding the perspectives, even the very subject matter of sociology. And they are otherwise said to be the foundation of a building, the basic concepts, the building blocks. Otherwise, you can also call that way, ladies and gentlemen. So here itself, the microscopic level, I want you to fix this, the problems of understanding. Once you are very clear in terms of the the building blocks level, the empire building process, maybe scoring 450 plus out of 500 in sociology, it's not a big task, well, ladies and gentlemen. For that purpose, we take into account, even to understand the syllabus. Of course, that let me show you. So that this is your syllabus. Of course, that to understand the syllabus and understand the previous questions also, you need the support of all these keywords, otherwise called basic concepts. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way, but it's totally different from common sense approach. That's what you're going to learn here. So we don't speak, we don't communicate, we don't write effectively, letter and spirit, that in our day-to-day life. So once you get exposed to all these keywords, you will start understanding where we commit mistakes. That's why the outcome accordingly. It's not making dent when you try to communicate something, because letter and spirit, we don't mean it. Otherwise, even the people in the other side of the end, they don't understand properly, because they also lack, that the letter and spirit meaning of each and every term. Somewhat, life is about, that you got philosophy for that, more or less, you can't be perfect like that. It's not nothing to do with perfect. And it's our efforts towards, understanding the core concepts. What I try to communicate, it should be, that letter and spirit should reach you. So there comes, that responsibility on the part of, both of us. It's not only me teaching you, inspiring you, parallelly your efforts towards understanding. So for that, we are establishing all this, the basic concepts and associated explanations, ladies and gentlemen. So that is the, the very purpose of our interaction. Hope you are very comfortable with audio. I believe if at all you've got that any problem, please parallelly type. Probably that our technical team will take care of if at all any issues. I hope that you don't have any problem. That yes. Ladies and gentlemen, very well that some of you may be newcomers. Though I say it is in continuation of the previous videos, please watch all those videos. Part of YouTube. under Success Sampath or Sampath Iruvengidam. And it should be inclusive learning to take into account even the newcomers today. Let me, to some extent, I have to introduce you. The very purpose, the very sociology, why it is a very popular optional subject in UPSC Civil Service Examination mains. Well, it is highly scoring, number one, and it has got other advantages because of the thing. You prepare for sociology, you are parallelly capable of scoring good marks in general studies papers also, especially paper 1 society, that, and paper 2 you got social justice portion. So not only that, even general studies, that reflecting the various aspects of the society, where your communication becomes more effective. And beyond that, that GS4 you got the case studies, especially the ethics paper, 130 marks, for which you are going to write that answer case studies. The case studies are nothing but the social problems. You might be aware the social problems in terms of case studies. You are going to provide solution. The ethics in personal relation, social relation, ethics in public administration, ethics in environmental domain. That you will be given a situation, and you are going to provide solution. There, the keywords what you are going to employ belonging to the domain of social science, mostly that to sociology. And there are overlapping of other social sciences too, but sociology has got crucial presence there. You will start understanding. Not only that, you got essay paper. The 250 marks for which you got essay paper, you are going to write 2 essays. If you take into account the last 25 years of the question paper, if you group them into domain, into 8 domain especially, we can do that. One of the domains happen to be about society, culture, and social issues, everything, ladies and gentlemen. So if you start preparing for sociology, that without effort, you are going to score in other subjects too. As I said, general studies and essay papers. But when you write your answers in that very general studies and essay papers, you're not supposed to reveal your flavor of sociology. You are supposed to write like generalist. There's German that you will come to know. You are not supposed to write all those thinkers case studies there. You will come to know very well. Yes, and beyond that, why it is very popular, apart from scoring, the other advantages what we enlisted so far. It is about you are living. You are part of the society. The society is in you. Whatever you speak, completely the reflection of you were brought up, the socialization, the culture, that you got exposed. There is a German, various institutions acting as agents of socialization shaped your personality in such a way, right? So from that dawn to dusk, that you come across all these social institutions. They're called subsystems of the whole system called society. And even your community, of course, your gated community, otherwise your neighborhood you talk, and your presence in various social groups, beginning with primary social groups, say family, and secondary social groups, your association, trade union, even the membership in a particular political party. Ladies and gentlemen, so all these institutions, what we are talking about, marriage, family, kinship, education institution, economic institution, political institution, even your identity, maybe the caste you belong to, the race you belong to, the gender you belong to, the ownership over economic resources you call class you belong to, the nationality you belong to. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that way. So social stratification we call. So all these institutions are not that static in nature. They're undergoing, as Karl Marx said, nothing is permanent in this world. The change is permanent, otherwise change is constant. So in that way, all institutions, society itself undergoing the change, the structurally, culturally, functionally. You call in terms of that accordingly social change put together, you call, right? So all these notions, when you apply in Indian context, that becomes your paper 2. So in paper 1, you got thinkers, as I said, enlisted the global thinkers, the same way Indian thinkers like G.S. Gurye, M.N. Srinivas, A.R. Desai, a lot of people you're going to witness. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that way. So it talks about the case studies, for example, Rampura village case study by M.N. Srinivas. Sripuram, that Andre Betel case study, it is that way. Louis Dumont, that so many people, that with various, the Nuer of Sudan, that we are talking about, that various case studies, even Emile Durkheim's, Australian Aborigines, where he found, the basic primitive religion. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that way. So the various case studies to substantiate your ideas. And beyond that, the very purpose of sociology, the byproduct of sociology, very well, objectivity, even value neutrality. You never take sides. You are supposed to be free from the all-round influences. Ladies and gentlemen, you speak that way, very well. That give me that's fantastic. Excellent one. Yeah. So it's that way, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking about, so the objectivity, the core principle of sociology. You even in the cultural domain, you see in terms of cultural relativism. You're not biased. You're not prejudiced. You are ready to see the both sides of the coins. Otherwise, you understand the truth that way. Say in sociology, you got perspectives for that. Structural functionalism school of thought and conflict school of thought. These are all called major perspectives in sociology. Even the micro perspective, you have symbolic interactionism. That's going to be the future of sociology also. And thinkers accordingly. All these thinkers, once again, coming under the banner of various institutions, that their opinion under various perspectives, the trend analysis, the challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, all these things, that I'm not teaching, that anything in the name of sociology to you. You know everything. I'm cheating you. let me be very frank with you, because otherwise my role is to connect your understanding. Maybe that's discrete in nature, that bits and pieces. I'm going to connect all your understanding, and to give shape to your understanding, and to formalize your understanding by contributing that the nomenclatures, the keywords, and maybe linking with some thinkers or some perspectives, so that your understanding becomes acquires a structure, gets a shape, a configuration, a pattern. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. That is what my duty, as Steve Jobs said, my duty is to play the role of a connector, the connectivity. Ladies and gentlemen, because you know everything. A teacher is a page ahead of the student normally, and because this subject with that particular nature, I'm not speaking anything new to you, because you're part of the society, you're practicing day by day. The only thing, that the formalization, that's what we are going to do. But karumbu thinna kuli in Tamil, we say, for your understanding, you're going to fetch good marks in the very sociology, the optional subject. That's why it's very popular. It is in touch. You are in touch with that syllabus, day-to-day basis. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking about, so this is, basic introduction about the very sociology, for newcomers. Let it be, that inclusive learning. So as I told you already, the basic concepts are almost like, building blocks or foundation of the building. You also treat that way. Without all these basic concepts, we can never understand the subject matter of sociology, even syllabus. Let me attack you, cut at supply level from the beginning. Oh, at the microscopic level, maybe it is a cellular, the troubleshooting, right? So that you never find problem at the macro level. Ladies and gentlemen, so all these things, caste system, modernization, westernization, very dominant caste, even the education and associated equality, even pressure groups, even power allied social movements, the institutions you call the family, marriage, kinship, even the transgender justice you come across, LGBT community, and even gender justice, and what are all the resources to be consulted. So this is what our agenda today, that the content of our interaction. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that welcoming you to Unacademy once again. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Success Sampath interacting with you. So this is in continuation of the previous discussion also, right? In spite of that, newcomers can also understand from the sketch. Let me ensure my explanation to be in such a way, right? Ladies and gentlemen, that just now we spoke about sociology, why it is popular, the advantages also, and how you are relevant to this, and everything already. I'm just, my role is to connect your understanding, the bits and pieces of your understanding, and to give formalization by the supply of nomenclatures and linking with thinkers and perspectives, so that you get definitely 450 plus out of 500. It is possible, apart from your score in other general studies and essay papers, even oral interview. That objectivity is going to help you to arrive at a particular stand, free from bias. Ladies and gentlemen, as I told you, the building blocks are foundation, without which we can never understand the syllabus. Even to understand the mains questions, you should be thorough with each and every word posed part of a question. If you don't know meaning of two words in a particular question, you just imagine. See, in essay, you get the title. Sometimes, 4 words, 5 words, that ultimately constituting a title. You don't know 2 to 3 words, what will happen? That's all, it's over. Sociology with its, rich vocabulary, the key words, art words, ladies and gentlemen, it's not only benefiting sociology, it's going to benefit you in terms of GS. in our day-to-day life, and also essay scoring, oral interview scoring. Ladies and gentlemen, so the very purpose, that the building blocks of sociology, that we are talking about. Yes, the caste system. This is about the first concept. No doubt. Even in the introduction I gave you, the social stratification. You would have heard about, that social stratification. What is social stratification? Are you aware of this concept? Why do you stratify society? Why do you make layering in the society? Who gave you authority? Otherwise, what is the very purpose? Otherwise, going for, making layering in the society, one above the another. Maybe you talk about hierarchy. Strata, stratum, stratification. Because the very society what we are living in, you might be aware, well aware, it is not egalitarian society, ladies and gentlemen. You know what is egalitarian society? Where everything is for everyone. Egalitarian, egalitarian. I'm yet to train myself. Egalitarian society we are talking about, even Mahatma Gandhi said egalitarian society where everything is for everyone. A pure communal society where everything is for everyone. All resources are equally accessible to all the members of the society. Is it so? Even today it is a dream. Gandhi dreamed of this society. Even Karl Marx dreamed of this society. There came one question in prelims this year also based on that. I used to emphasize this. Both Mahatma Gandhi and Karl Marx heading towards the same destination, but paths are different. Gandhiji spoke in terms of, ahimsa satyagraha, whereas Mahatma Gandhi spoke in, the very, that Karl Marx spoke in terms of, you might be aware, the radical revolution, where violence is not ruled out. The egalitarian society, even today it is a dream. Then what sort of society you have? Society with socially created inequalities. It's not a society with, that equalities, that inequality. So social differentiation accordingly. And accordingly privileges and disprivileges, a section of population getting discriminated. You start, that segregating people or stratifying people, classifying people one above the another. This is happening at the global level. And India, you got, that unique system of India, the caste system, the traditional system of stratification in India. And based on, Manu Smriti, people you call, and he divided the whole society, Indian society, on the basis of caste system, in terms of the top position to the Brahmins, and second layer to Kshatriyas, then Vaishyas, Sudras. These Shudras meant for all those, menial jobs, Vaishyas, mercantile communities, Kshatriyas, the warriors, rulers, and Brahmins, that advising kings, officiating priests. It is that way. You can ask me on what basis they have stratified. There comes the notion called purity and pollution. On the basis of purity, when you go up, you are said to be more pure. When you come down, you are said to be more impure. According to that, Manu version, the caste system I'm talking about. So this is one of the forms of social stratification that you identify with Indian society. You got other forms like, based on race, based on gender, based on, class ownership over economic resources, based on knowledge also. But here we restrict ourselves to traditional Indian system, the caste system, even today, which has got, very influential role in terms of, that electoral politics. And because, given the fact 65% of, that Indians live in villages, the traditional bound society, the rural society, the closed system. Why? Because, the purity and pollution, by, that when you go up, you are more pure. When you come down, you are more impure. In terms of hierarchy, I'm talking about. So you stratify people on the basis of this purity pollution notion, and you make layering, accordingly privileges, high, low, the hierarchy, the gradation. Once you're born in a particular caste, you have to die in that caste only. Today you're talking about religious conversion, garvapsi, everything. No, but once you're born in a particular caste, you have to die in that caste only, because such is the case. The rigidity, the closed system, no mobility is there. Movement of people from one stratum to another is not allowed. It's zero. Social mobility is zero, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking about. That's why it's called a rigid institution, rigid entity, a closed system. It is very fortunate if you're born in upper layer, but you just imagine if you're born in the lower caste status. You're highly vulnerable, the oppression, suppression. And not only that, and once you're born in a particular, that caste system, which has got its own occupation. Frankly speaking, it was working very well in the initial days. Interdependency, that the people never questioned that, segregation. Based on occupation, it was, interdependent society was working well. But over the days, the rigidity, the caste system acquired rigidity. There, it became dysfunctional. Ladies and gentlemen, the beginning, that a guy born, he never questioned the system. He accepted the system. Later days, that the people with expertise in skill, and they felt something, they are oppressed, suppressed, the discrimination. I know that on the part of, that even upper caste people started practicing that oppression, suppression measures, and in the name of orthodoxy. Otherwise, that the dispриvileged people, that started, realizing, how vulnerable they are. So there came ultimately the issues. In the beginning, it was working well. So you can say caste system was quite functional. It gives, the fantastic division of labor. No employment exchange that you can approach, because once you are born in a particular caste, in Tamil it's called kulatozhil. But of course, you may be an individual, you got special talent, but the system never allows you to practice that special talent, because that is what the closed system rigidity we are talking about. Unable to handle with, individual peculiarities, expertise, because, the system expects you to undergo the rules of the game. So that's why you talk about, the very hierarchy, one above the another. People were stratified accordingly. And also, that the endogamy, once you are born in a particular caste, you have to choose your spouse within that caste only. So we are talking about, that of course, here you got another term called, the taboo. Taboo means you are prohibited from doing certain actions. The taboo, actually it is derived from the word called taboo. Don't say actress taboo. Taboo means in Hindi term, the tapu, wrong. It is that way, but taboo, you are prohibited from doing certain actions. The taboo may be food taboo. So the upper caste people never touch the food prepared by, lower caste people. So that otherwise, that uncooked food they accept. Even the priest, Brahmins, visiting, that non-Brahmin family for Purohit activities, you might be aware. So they take, that raw material, not the cooked food, you might be aware. It is that way. Otherwise, sometimes they sprinkle the water and before touching the vessel, by touching the vessel simply, it is said to be, that polluting. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way we are talking about. Of course, it is that way. So food taboo, vessel taboo, and commensal, even interdining is not practiced. And sometimes, when the non-Brahmin going and eating food in the Brahmin family, and what will happen, that ultimately they will sprinkle the water, the place where you sat, ultimately they will wipe. So these are all the things, even the rural areas, you witness the tradition, the practice by elders. Of course, it's changing, but in spite of that, there are old people yet to, that come out of the traditional practices, they feel, they give, primacy to the tradition, then the human rights. After all, the modern notions, human rights, they may not be exposed to that level, but they will be talking about value system. That's totally different scenario. I'm not speaking against anybody, and at the same time, the reality, it's ignorance. The system, for which, the people are got exposed, they're unable to come out of the system, but they don't realize it's going against the individual rights on the part of an individual. So there comes constitution to rescue in terms of, that you might be aware. The Protection of Civil Rights Act, that got amended, you might be aware, in a prohibition of discrimination of, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, that of course you might be aware, and that should not be misused also by, the scheduled caste, scheduled tribal people, the very Supreme Court judgments associated with that. Even, that for to undo the historical wrongs we are talking about, the reservation measures, even abolition of untouchability, Article 17. Mahatma Gandhi, all those things, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about. So food taboo, vessel taboo, commensal taboo, connubium. Connubium means marriage. Here we are talking about you have to choose your spouse only within your the caste, of course, endogamous we are talking about. And social distance. So physical distance, you are supposed to maintain physical distance due to social reasons. According to Andre Beetle case study in Tanjore, there is a caste called, that washerman community. You might be aware. Vannan. In Tamil Nadu, it is called Vannan, the Dobi, washerman community. That when upper caste people walking in the street, they should not come in between, right, in the roadside. They are called unseeables. By mere seeing, that upper caste people is said to be polluted. They are called unseeables. They should not cross. As the notion, that the widow should not cross, or single Brahmin should not cross. Even today, the practice we come across. You feel inauspicious. It is that way. Otherwise, elder member of the particular family will come to the doorstep and will see anybody's there on the roadside. Come, now road is clear. Come on. as the protocol that I've seen in my village. It is that way. It is that way. So all those things, that we are talking about, and forget about that. And the very Pulayan caste in Kerala, they are supposed to maintain some 18 feet distance with upper caste Nambudiri Brahmins, because mere shadow, the sunshade, casting on that upper caste Brahmin is said to be polluting. They're asked to maintain that 18 feet distance. So physical distance due to social reasons. Such is the extreme cruelty that you violate, you refuse to recognize the fundamental spirit of that human being. So such is the system, that old system, but still you find relevance. Of course, it's not 100% letter and spirit. It's in different forms also. But caste also, the 21st century avatar, that's according to M.N. Srinivas. Even the political system, the dominant caste. Even you might be calling, that even Tamil Nadu, All India Anna Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam, AADMK, it's otherwise called, as a matter of criticism, All India Devar Munnetra Kazhagam, because that has got, a big vote bank from Devar community. Even other political parties, DMK also started balancing that. So even political parties understood this, that effective role played by the caste system, and started giving, that the seats to that particular caste people, so that to be part of, that legislative mechanisms. They understood the technology. Even Rajni Kothari making study based on that. So otherwise, you speak this way in India, people are not casting their votes. Not casting the votes. They are voting their caste. Let me repeat. People are not casting their votes. They are voting their. Which is the affinity. Of course, we talk about, that education, the modern science and technology, modern transport and communication, and the class system in place of the caste system. It is not a paradigm shift we are talking about. Even the urban areas, people are, living for professional reason in urban areas, but when they come to rural area for celebration or festivities, for family function, they never hesitate to practice this. You would have seen some movies portraying, the girls, that in the city culture, they'll be going to discotheque, taking tequila, 2 shots, 3 shots. But when they go home in the rural area, ultimately they'll be wearing madisar and asking, Wango, Wango, edutukungo. I'm not speaking against any religion, any particular caste, ladies and gentlemen. So such is the double standard, that hypocriticism, that we witness in today's youth. So the compulsion, that from family side, they want to strictly adhere to. But this in all, let us observe, let us speak about it. Don't take sides. In what way we can, that not be part of that. That is the thing. But as a sociologist, you try to understand. So the caste system is all about this. We are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So accordingly, that the privileges and disprivileges. But the main thing is that it is not allowing people to move from one stratum to another. That's why it's called rigid institution, a closed-end, the system, inflexible, the system. And the outcome of this, you talk about judgmental system. Even the, that other day in video we spoke about this, the judgmental system we are talking about. What is that judgmental system, ladies and gentlemen? It is, intercaste, interfamilial, intergenerational relationship. When once you're born in a particular caste, that you have to serve the other castes. The judgment come in relationship we are talking. Even in the rural areas today, you witness whenever we go for, that the agricultural cultivation, the procurement period, people from different castes, washerman community, the barber community, they will come and stand. I personally witnessed. My dad used to say, give them, two sacks of, that paddy, and give him 2 sacks of paddy. The point is, they are not paid in cash, they are paid in kind. Ladies and gentlemen, intercaste, interfamilial, intergenerational. When the father dies, son will take care of that. The judgment also has got the responsibility. It's not simply availing, consuming the service. You have to take care of that particular lower caste people of different, practicing different professions. And it was working very well. Judgmental system was fantastic. Of course, that's why you say the caste system was functional on one ground, dysfunctional because of its rigidity. And even the very birth of, that the heterodox sects of Hinduism, you call Buddhism and Jainism, they are unable to tolerate this orthodoxy. Otherwise, the language utilized by the upper caste Brahmins, Sanskrit, but whereas the very Buddhism, Jainism, utilize local lingua, franca. You say Pali, Prakrit, happen to be downtrodden people's languages. And also, that the very orthodoxy on the part of the caste system never allowed, that the people of the Vaishyas to practice mercantile activities to cross territorial water. Might be aware, a pious Hindu should not cross territorial water. And the people, even India's independence struggle, the Sipai mutiny you are talking about, the people who went to Burma and they were not allowed, accepted back in their respective families. We talk about all these things, ladies and gentlemen. It's that way. So, and even the pig fed, that used in Enfield cartridges, you might be aware how all these things we are talking about, that definitely this caste system enjoying the sanctity of, the religion, no doubt at all. So that goes with tradition, custom, even the religious sanctity, ladies and gentlemen, the Manu version. But of course, to undo all this, historical past, the mistakes, of course, even the B.R. Ambedkar embraced, Buddhism, started Mahar movement, and he got, that frustrated by the caste system and associated social disabilities, and you might be aware, and various social religious reform movements happen in India, and Sri Narayana Dharma Paripalana movement, Ezhava, the Kerala you talk about, even Dravidian parties, especially, that all Dravidian parties for which the parent organization you might be aware, the EV Ramasamy Naikar from Tamil Nadu, Dravidar Kazhagam. Formerly it was called Justice Party, later it got renamed. So nobody is free from criticism. Forget about that. That's not our duty to talk about it. So everybody, I don't know your other side of coin. I don't know about your other side. That you don't know about my, other side. But the point here, let's talk what is relevant for the caste system. So because of various social, religious reform movements, ultimately, and people got, otherwise, frustrated by this caste system and associated disabilities, they started, going for religious conversion. The very, the British administration here in India, the missionary activities, especially we are talking about. So they came and they converted the people, lower caste people, and they gave, that a good educational, that facilities and food, clothing, and conversion gave different names. That's why, the forced religious conversion today, the ban on, we are talking about all these things, which has got its own trace. Under British administration, that happened very well. Even northeastern people, tribal community got converted. That gave them, that different opportunities. But mainland tribal people could not access. They didn't do that. That's why they are poor even today. So the British administration benefited our Indian tribals in one sense that way. I'm not justifying, the proselytization efforts of the Christianity, but people utilizing that, learned English language, and started benefiting out of that. So that is the thing we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So I think this information is sufficient. Caste system is the traditional system of stratification in India, but even today you see the remnants in terms of the rural areas, especially the judgment system, and it's the projection in the polity. Even the political seats, the electoral contestants decided based on a particular constituencies, the very caste system, the size of the caste people, and also the socio-economic census where we are talking about the impact, and that every caste people and running after the notion, that the reservation, of course, and there are some upper caste to enjoy the benefit of reservation, they want to downgrade to the level of OBC also. It is all these things you come across, ladies and gentlemen. That is the thing. So the 69% of reservation in Tamil Nadu that went to the ninth schedule of the constitution. Very well. It's because of the the bargaining power of the caste, and even the Dalit movements we are talking about. Those who were all oppressed, suppressed, and they are trying to retaliate back. Hitherto they were oppressed, suppressed. So all caste-related conflicts and associated murders and the judgments you come across, and even the honor killings. The traditional mentality, that the cow panchayats ultimately part of village administration, and its impact on the girl child especially, and women and children, ladies and gentlemen. So everything we are talking about, one of the forms of social stratification in India. I think that this is enough. I think you are going to witness this particular concept in various units of paper 2 of your sociology, ladies and gentlemen. I think it is right time. Let me take you to the next concept, of course. Yes, modernization. Once again, please. Yes. What is modernization? It's a process of becoming modern. Modernization is a process. Ladies and gentlemen, when you talk about that change in society, you call social change. The change could be cultural change, structural change, functional change. When you talk about cultural change, change in way of life, style of life, change in terms of dress, food habits, lifestyle mechanism, you call it, right? That even shelter. So maybe where you bring, Sanskritization, Westernization concept, the change in terms of culture. Whereas the change in terms of structure, all social institutions undergoing phenomenal shift, a paradigm shift because of the British administration. That's why MN Srini was, praising that. And India underwent, modernization because of our exposure to, the British administration. They brought tremendous changes cutting across various social institutions, whether it is marriage-related laws or family, joint family, inheritance of property, whatever it may be, or even you call, education institution, introduction of the Macaulay Minutes, Charter Act, that you might be 1813, and even the administration, of course, you bring local self-government, Lord Ripon we are talking about, and the zamindari system, abolition of, that all those zamindari, everything you bring, that what cutting across various spheres of life. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way we are talking about. So, modernization, if you talk about as a process that involves changes in all areas of human thought, activity, all aspects of society, all areas of, that. So, it is all areas of human thought and action, activity we are talking about. The changes, what you witness, how? Okay, it is simple version, but it aims at socio-economic and political transformation for what? Achieve, to achieve the progress and development. Ladies and gentlemen, this modernization was needed. It's because of the British administration. You talk about today the bureaucracy in India and even the railway. I'm not talking about the positive impact. They did everything so that they can exploit more. They can move their forces immediately to the crisis area to control that. And so that they can, when their exploitation is more, so the exploited resources, that were feeding parallelly, the industrial revolution happened in Europe. They had their own exploitative tendency. They came here not to ensure the welfare of Indians. Got the idea? Na? So you can also compare, prior to the advent of East India Company or British administration in India, what was our GDP? What was our poverty level? By the time they left India, what was our GDP? What was our poverty level? Ladies and gentlemen, you can compare, you come to know. So exploitative tendency was there, but the unintended consequences. Manifest function to exploit. Latent function is to, what happened, right? That benefited after they left India. Of course, from there we started. That way we can see. Of course, they left in, pauperized state. That's totally different scenario. Well. So it is because of the British administration, India underwent modernization. It's a fact you might be aware. To explain the process of, that modernization for social change. Why we are going for, if you want to explain social change, you can't explain social change without touching the process called modernization. As I said, cultural change, structural change, functional change. Structural change is in terms of change in terms of social institutions. When you address the changes in terms of social institutions, you address the process of modernization. Ladies and gentlemen, that way. So, what happened? This modernization dates back to the age of Renaissance and formation of all walks of life, like, that especially literature, the science, religion, everything, all, that areas underwent. That's what, in the beginning we say. So, touching all areas of human thought and activity. Process of becoming modern. So, you are moving away from tradition. It's not complete replacement of tradition by modern. In India, even the Yogendra Singh, who wrote the book, that modernization of Indian tradition, and he used to mention that, in India, both modernization and traditionalization working in parallel. Even you use technology. What happened? The use of, that internet booking for Vaishnava Devi temple. From sitting here, you book your darshan for, that, of course, that Suprabhat darshan, that the very, the Tirumala. And through online, you get prasad. Ladies and gentlemen, see, use of the technology to serve the traditional purpose. It's because of the modernity, you just don't give up the traditional practices, the customary practices. So tradition, continue to survive, sometimes excel with the support of technology. If you go to, the temple and all, they will turn on the switch, that will make music, that tang, ladies and gentlemen, what is this? Instead of making, that the tawil, nadaswaram, that the tawil, they've got, machine for that. They will simply turn on the switch that serves the purpose. that will make all, you don't need, 4 people, you achieve with, simple, a project on the part of engineering college students and diploma, the holders. The use of the technology to serve the traditional purpose. This is how in India, it is not replacement of tradition by the modernity. It is in continuity. The change with continuity is a core principle in India you witness every day. Because of the thing, that you become, that young modern, it's not you throw your parents away. You respect them, you touch their feet at the same time, that, and they also understand your problem and your ambitions. They listen to you. It's working parallel, working parallel. You respect you respect the past. At the same time, you don't hesitate to embrace the future. The same thing, the continuity, change with continuity. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about this way. So dates back to the age of Renaissance, Marumalarchi. In Tamil, we call it in Renaissance. The change, that you're very happy about that particular change. It's not simple change. The change at a bigger level. We are talking about the formation in all walks of life, like literature, science, religion. The very at the global level, modernization came into practice at the end of the Second World War. The 1945, very well, 1950s and 1960s, we are talking about the coinage. And not only that, the very Europe, what happened, the French Revolution, Industrial Revolution, the various changes. The French Revolution, that gave us, liberty, equality, fraternity, change at the political front of the society. The democracy, the monarchy, that gave way to democracy. And also the Industrial Revolution, that changed the economic aspect of the society. The traditional cottage-based industries gave way to the factory-based mode of production. So all these changes ultimately with which, that from tradition to modern value system, that the modern literature, otherwise modern ideas, because parallelly, that particular time period witness, you might be aware, the outcome, the enlightenment, period of enlightenment. So it's ultimately, it is that way. So that's why we are talking about Dr. Yogendra Singh, especially in the book Modernization of Indian Tradition. He defined tradition. We are talking about modernization. And he also defined, the very tradition. What is that? Tradition as a cumulative heritage of a society. It's accumulated version. In the long term, generation by generation, a particular practice, even the custom in the long run is called tradition. Custom itself, that established way of behaving in a particular society. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So the cumulative heritage of society, which permits, that though all levels of social organization, you talk about, that which permits, that through all levels of social organization, such as the value system, social structure, personality structure. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about, so the tradition, it is accumulated, the cumulative heritage of the society, which permits, that through all levels of social organization, such as value system, social structure, personality system. But whereas tradition is different from modern, because that it's something radical, the contemporary. We are talking about that way. It's not based on past custom or long tradition. Ladies and gentlemen, not accumulative practice, something of modern and new, something innovative, creative, the outcome of the contemporary, modern practices. Ladies and gentlemen, that way we talk about. So modernization, of course, that as a value-free term, modernization expects you to be, free from all prejudices, bias, free from all your isms, fasten your belt, be ready to embrace the creativity, innovation. So that involves, that why? Because that involves rational cause and effect. That scientific transformation of socio-cultural values of the institute. You start questioning why, or sometimes why not. Show me proof attitude. It is impact of the scientific temperament. The logical connectivity, the rationalization. That, ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So modernization, that as a value-free term, that it's not influenced by the tradition of the past. That expects you to be free from all your clutches, that are holding you back. But it's not speaking bad about tradition, that. But in Indian context, we say continuity with change, ladies and gentlemen. But you have to understand, so they are two different models, but there is continuity also between. So modernization, very well, like Westernization. What is Westernization? It's also a process. It talks about the process of the cultural change, aping the West, aping the styles of West, or getting influenced by the Western culture, Western value system. So, but modernization, like Westernization, doesn't destroy the cultural identity. That that especially in the non-Western societies, Asian, even the very English, what I'm talking about, it is Westernization. All our leaders, English educated intellectuals, intelligentsia, Western educated intelligentsia, they played crucial role in India's independence struggle. Most of the leaders, Bharat law. If you take into account Indian politicians, there will be MABL, and you go for the 50 years back that has become trend. And those days, India's independence struggle, that they will have abroad education, especially the Bharat law, barrister, that was the trend. That the exposure, the value system, they when they came to India, and ultimately, that how the masses were, ill-treated at the hands of British exploitation or colonization. So later that became, movement. Otherwise, it's also conflict between Western educated elite in India and also the East India Company or British elites, that the competition, to exploit more. That's another version according to A.R. Desai. You will come to know. Ladies and gentlemen, so modernization like Westernization. But Westernization, what happened? Even the very Macaulay Minutes of English education, Lord Macaulay, you might be aware, the Charter Act 1813, that talks about what should be the medium of instruction. There came confusion. Then ultimately there was a committee set up. The head of the committee, of course, Lord Macaulay, who recommended the English education, and he had his own justification. Once you recommend, that the first, these Indian people are very closely knit, connected, very strong. They got strong family system, strong culture bound value system. You can never break that. The solidarity. You want to break, first attack the culture, the root of the society, the blueprint of the society. You have to attack the culture. To attack the culture, you have to attack the language. Language is the vehicle of the culture. Once you that attack that language, once you forget their own native language, once they start appreciating English as a superior language, once they come to that level, they will forget their own native languages. They will belittle the native languages. They will start appreciating English speaking people as the great, the knowledge people. Even today there is a notion, people speaking English as if knowledge. Nothing to do with that. English, after all, a language. It's a tool. What you're going to do with that tool is very important. Even there are people with that wrong notion. So once that the Macaulay says, once Indian people that come to know, accept English as their medium of instruction, they will forget their native language. Once you destroy language, it becomes very easier for us to destroy the culture. It becomes very easier for us to enjoy supremacy over them, so that they start feeling an inferiority complex. Even today it happens in our Indian society, that people from rural background, they feel inferiority complex, that once they come to witness people speaking good English language. No, not at all. That's after all language. You have to think about Russian, even Chinese, even Japanese people, even French people. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. But it has got its own advantage, that if you don't have, but you have to think that way. Nothing wrong in learning a particular language, but if you don't think that you have nothing. It's a very dangerous tendency. If at all you think that way, please correct yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, so this Westernization doesn't, what happened? Modernization doesn't destroy the cultural identity, but Westernization did, because what the language, the dress style, food habits. Even today you talk about the very McDonald's, the Italian pizza. What we are talking about, the junk food you call, the Coke, all those, Pepsi, without which you don't take food, all those styles. But ultimately you end up, that going to hospitals. So, thanks to the recent, consciousness on the part of the people, the organic farming, that honoring, the native, the seasonal, the variety of vegetables, fruits, whatever, maybe I appreciate that. So, but what happens, right? But, the conspicuous consumption, you go to mall and you spend money for the sake of, impressing others. But at the end of the day, you end up, that being a patient. That is the thing, because, the very sugary water and all those, the insecticides, part of that, So I'm not going against or speaking against, that your lifestyle, and hope you are conscious about it. This Westernization and destroying the cultural identity. So got the idea, na? But modernization is not like that. So that is what modernization, like Westernization, doesn't destroy the cultural identity. For your kind information, especially of the non-Western society, hope you understand the spirit. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. Modernization, that when you talk about modernization, you parallelly witness a lot of features of the modernization. It's the process of becoming urbane. You see, that the urbanization is a process. Urbanism is a way of life. Louis Wirth said once. Urbanization is a process. How? That where you see more than 75% of the people engaged in non-agricultural activities. And there will be more population density also. Ladies and gentlemen, is that more population size as well as density. So the process of becoming urban. So what is the point? So the rural areas, the becoming urban establishment of, from agriculture to non-agriculture, factory-based setup, or even ultimately they become, that giving input to the, that nearby neighborhood, that factories. It is that way. So the process urbanization you parallelly witness with modernization, and also the literacy level. People become, aware of the important role played by education. The education as an instrument of, social change, the tool for social change. The access to that modern life, that access to the level of development, you not only fulfilling your needs, you take part that in economic activities, and you start paying tax, and your effective presence in part of society. Ladies and gentlemen, the crucial role played by the literacy we are talking about. So modernization, the majority of the people happen to be literate, that, and the effective role played by mass media, whether you talk about TV or print media, even the mass communication, the celluloid world, that multiplex status you are talking about, and beyond that you talk about the presence of social media, but that has penetrated to even rural area, thanks to that internet of things and the internet penetration, though it is very a low level of percentage, but and most of the corporates working very heavily in terms of that zero access, you might be aware. So the growing, even that the people suggesting the Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, like that free Wi-Fi, and using that balloons, big balloons. So it is that way. So that it has got its own corporate advantages. That's totally different scenario. And also the people in urban areas having growing political awareness. It doesn't mean that rural people without awareness, at least they know who is their MLA of his own caste, the immediate that loyalty, neighborhood, the caste affiliation parallelly. But there will be more the political awareness because they read newspapers, and more than rural people, you might be aware. So, Kerala, you can say, that the 100% literacy, the people are politically more aware. You can never speak with them, and they got their own version for everything. So that awareness I'm talking about, especially, and skilled manpower to support economic development, especially, that the people, maybe ITI and that various diploma courses available, that even polytechnics, the engineering colleges, and also that finishing school programs, that skill enablement programs, various even private institutions we are talking about. So even the government making skill the enablement program, Skills India, you might be aware. It is that way. So the skilled manpower, that with which that facilitates the economic development, all these things, and also the technological advancement you witness, the part of modernization, especially to support for the faster industrialization. Ladies and gentlemen, so all these things, that once you talk about modernization, it's a process of becoming modern, innovation, creativity, embracing new things, incorporating new things, so as to move to the next level, maybe talking about development, maybe talking about enablement on the part of individual level, maybe talking about that awareness, political awareness, or process of becoming urbane. That way, when you talk about modernization, you see all these associated concepts, ladies and gentlemen. So this modernization is not opposed to traditionalism. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what we are talking about. You see continuity of this tradition with the incorporation of modern tools, the creative tools. It is very wrong to say, the tradition got completely nothing. There is no pure modern society, no pure traditional society in the world. There is no strict watertight compartment also. It's that way we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. It's that way. Industrialization and urbanization are not essential precondition. Though we spoke all these things, that you witness part of modernization, very industrialization and urbanization, they are not prerequisites for modernization. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand, because Japan is a highly industrialized, the country without being modern. Still, they got tradition, the traditional value system. Even China, that the traditional value system, family is the center place. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So that the influence of tradition still there, in spite of the thing they have achieved. That in terms of industrial development. So even you talk about Punjab, that agricultural development, very well, the dairy products, agriculture, even all modern, that the tractors usage there. mechanized agriculture, productivity maximization. The Green Revolution benefited more in terms of BD procurement. You know well, so the Punjab is urbanized without industrialization. Even the agriculture, they've gone to the next level. Mechanized agriculture, the productivity maximization. So you can also witness, the modernization without urbanization, without industrialization. So it is that way, not, though we speak juxtaposed, you see in parallel, it's not mandatory, it's not a prerequisite. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way we talk about. Yes, that way I think it is right. And, I'm elaborating more because it has got, its own impact on paper too. Hope you understand. It is that way. So, modernization and westernization. Westernization, it is aping the West, copying the styles of Western world. It is that way. Modernization talks about the change in terms of various social institutions, process of becoming modern. So, this talks about structural change, whereas westernization talks about the change in way of life, style of life, cultural change. Language is, after all, vehicle of culture. Got the idea? So it is that way. Westernization, we spoke about Macaulay minutes and all. So modernization and westernization are not synonymous. They can never be used, that interchangeably. But but practically we are using that. Although both are often used interchangeably, but they are not synonymous, because westernization addresses cultural change on the part of the society, change in way of life, style of life. But whereas, modernization is all about the change in terms of structure, the change in institutions of the society, the change in terms of marriage, family, that education institution, economic institution, political institution, all those steps. Ladies and gentlemen, so modernization has a broadened connotation, and westernization, is simply part of this larger process of social change. That when you talk about the westernization can be brought under this. India witnessed, this westernization because of its contact with the West. The contact with the West happened in India. It's because of the British administration. The British administration is solely responsible for the modernization in India, as well as, even the westernization we come to know because of the British administration in India. So it is that way. So westernization is part and parcel of modernization. Got the idea? It is that way. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen. So modernization is rather a process of rationalization. As I told you, with the scientific temperament, you question everything. Show me proof attitude. You want to see the cause and effect, logical connectivity. Behind every action, there is a reason, you believe. The reason, the reasoning, the rationalization, the logical connectivity. Show me proof. The empiricism, it is that way, and it involves the total population. Got the idea? No? So modernization is not, involving mere, the specific population, embracing the total population. So the thing is, it is also talking about the rationalization with a scientific temperament. You understand? That's why we said the creativity, innovation, the process of becoming modern. Got the idea? No? It's a modernization is a process. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So Indian society is more traditional compared to American society. But neither of them absolutely traditional or absolutely modern. That it's a matter of comparison. Ladies and gentlemen, you talk about we are more traditional given ruralized nature. Around 65% of the population living in rural areas. Even today, even in the urban areas, we are not completely cut off from tradition. We respect our elders. We give importance to our elders. We also practice value system in the urban areas. It's not completely cutting off from the past tradition or custom in the urban areas. Ladies and gentlemen, well. It is that way. But when comparing with American society, more of that tradition you witness with Indian society. Of course, when you say Indian society, it's called community. The customary practice, the tradition, the protocol is that way. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that. But no country is perfectly or absolutely traditional or absolutely modern. For your kind information, ladies and gentlemen. So this is that of course that next concept we are talking about. M.N. Srinivas, Mysore Narsimhacharya Srinivas. It is he who described this, westernization, who coined this, not only Sanskritization, even the westernization, both addressing the cultural change in culture of the society, that. Change in way of life, style of life. It is that we are talking about. So the process of socio-cultural mobility in traditional, the social structure in India. It is his case study, you might be aware, that M.N. Srinivas study in Kurgs of India, South India especially, the case study, where he came up with the notion, and especially he himself, in especially the year 1962, and he added a lot of, that notions later also, that after 1962, ladies and gentlemen. So the change brought about in Indian society and culture as a result of over 150 years of the British rule. As I told you, the Westernization, that he traces with British rule, the impact of the British rule, and the term subsuming the changes occurring at different levels of technology, the institutions, the ideology, value system. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that way. So, though he talks about institution, it's not structural change. He addresses only the change in terms of value system. That's because of the impact of the British rule, especially in Indian society and culture. Ladies and gentlemen, so the change in value system, the change in culture, cultural change, the Westernization is aping the West, aping the Western culture. It is that way. So Westernization refers to those changes brought about in the non-Western countries, the Eastern Oriental countries. For us, they are West. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that way we talk about. It's that way, ladies and gentlemen. So through adoption of that Western cultural values and elements with which that these countries had prolonged contact and interaction. Prolonged contact and interaction. We are talking about it. Is that way. Prolonged contact and interaction. That the impact of the British rule, you might be aware. It's that way. It's the right time, ladies and gentlemen. It is a process of imitation, as I told you, aping, imitating the Western culture and values by non-Western countries. That is called the simple words Westernization. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way we are talking about. Westernization is a process of imitation of the Western culture and values of the non-Western, especially by the non-Western countries. It is aping, imitating. That's what we do. You just see the traditional, the Chinese setup, the aping, the McDonald's presence here. And that you talk about the KFC also, that you hear the traditional society. Of course, in every big town you find KFC, McDonald's, Subway also. Hello, that way, that Starbucks, and that Big Bazaar, and of course Spencer's Daily, that you hear. But nowadays our Indian corporates presence. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So the process of imitation of the Western culture, we're talking about. Westernization is a value-loaded term. It's a value-loaded term. It's not value-free term. But modernization expects you to practice value neutrality. Be ready to face any challenges, because that's based on scientific temperament. But whereas Westernization, you ape a particular value system, so definitely you are biased. It's a value-loaded term. Value-laden concept or value-loaded term. You talk that way with restricted connotation of that imitation of the Western culture and values. Is that way, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about that. The very emphasis given by M.N. Srinivas on Westernization, basically, that included humanitarian and rationalism. Ladies and gentlemen, you understand now why Westernization is considered part and parcel of modernization. Even modernization, we spoke about rationalization, but Westernization, it's all about value system. The values are nothing but general guidelines to an action, guiding the human beings, the value system, to not to kill, not to harm, satyagraha, ahimsa, not to lie, to love, right? It's that way. And to practice, tolerance, not tolerance, acceptance. Love leads to acceptance. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that way. So emphasis given by M.N. Srinivas on Westernization basically included, humanitarianism, even rationalism. Is that way, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about. So the very Westernization we are talking about. So Yogendra Singh, who wrote the book called that Modernization of Indian Tradition, he also spoke about this. This emphasis on humanitarianism and rationalism is part of Westernization, which led to series of institutional and social reforms in it. Got the idea, na? So even the budget you speak, na, a budget without human face. It is that way. So you should have human face. The human beings are end. So all that scientific tools, the modern tools becoming a means so as to achieve the purpose. Even the science, without humanity, one of the 7 sins according to Mahatma Gandhi. Ladies and gentlemen, you understand very well. So emphasis on humanism. The rationalism is part of the Westernization, because humanism, just now we spoke. So this is once again that led to series of institutional social reforms. So you started addressing the needs of the human society. In what way you can make the betterment of the humanity is that way. So that's according to Yogendra Singh. So not only that, the establishment of scientific, technological and educational institutions. You're talking about, all those after India's independence, so much of institutions we established, very well. So the rise of IITs, IIM, we talk about, even that the scientific establishments, ladies and gentlemen. So the rise of nationalism, even the new political culture and leadership in the country, even during India's independence struggle, we are talking about all byproducts of Westernization. the line of Western world. Even the British people were instrumental in setting up those institutions, you might be aware. But of course, their intention is not to benefit Indians, rather to exploit more. They established all these institutions to further their own cause, for their own benefit, to feed industrialization, you might be aware. Otherwise, the educated, English educated intelligentsia to work as babus, huh? to serve their, that bureaucratic setup of exploitation, you might be aware. So not only that, when you talk about Westernization, there are, as we spoke, modernization and associated the values present. Here too, you talk about associated values, as we discussed now, humanitarianism, the human as the center of everything, and equalitarianism. The thing is, you treat everybody as equal. Now we have gone to the next level, part of ethics. It's more than equality. We speak about equity. What is equity? Recognition of the unique potential on the part of every individual. Right? That's what we used to say. That equality, treating everybody equal. Equity, it's not only treating everybody equal. You also understand each and everybody as unique, with unique problem, unique potential. The moment you start looking at things this way, you move to the next level. From equality to equity, where you started practicing ethics. It's more than law. That's what you are, well. But here we are talking about humanitarianism, equalitarianism, and also secularization. You move from, from the clutches of religion to, the sacred to secular character. When you talk about religion, you talk about, the sacredness, things set apart, forbidden for worshipping. But you move from that, paradigm shift. Even Howard S. Becker, that talks about that. Even Brian Wilson, secularization concept, well. So the scientific temperament, when you practice, that you try to detach. But unfortunately, it's not unfortunate. It is fortunate also, because you can't blame our leaders. As I told you, right, the change with continuity. That's what we practice in India. As I told you, many times, when we send our, from ISRO, the SHAR, when we send our satellite, that we break coconuts. We also see Ragu Kala, good timings. Our Prohit suggesting, because it's a project. It's going to fetch 5,000 crores for that antics marketing wing of ISRO. Very well. That's business part of that, and that all the efforts put by our scientists, the resources of India should not go into vain. Well, and the belief system, ultimately people break coconut, and Kalam Iyer will be standing next to that rocket. So such is the case. India, a melting pot, multiculturalism, that we respect each other's the culture, even we respect the value system. It is that way. The tradition, that part of modernity, sending satellite, but you break coconut. So a blend of both you find, right? It is that way. So, but this secularization, that you come out from the clutches of religious spirit, rather you become more spiritual. That non-sacred things. That it's not completely influenced by the sanctity, sanctum sanctorium or sanctity status. That you move to secular credentials, so that that becomes a level playing field for all people of all faiths, ladies and gentlemen. So it is that way, that, and not only that, and initiation of social reforms, that socio-religious reform movements happen in India because of Western educated individuals, starting from Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Ladies and gentlemen, very well, even all our freedom fighters, their exposure to Western education, the intelligentsia, recognition of the fundamental human right, that way, that the widow remarriage, abolition of sati, we are talking about, going against, superstitious practices, and even Dravidian movement, EVR, we are talking about it is that way. So the initiation of various social reform movements because of the, Western educated intelligentsia, especially aping the Western values, recognition of the fundamental, that the human potential in every individual. That's what humanitarianism, and treating all human beings as equal. In that sense, you come out of the past tradition, the custom-bound, caste-bound society, which has got its own inequalities. Just now we spoke about caste system. Ladies and gentlemen, and predominant role played by science and technology. That's what rationalization, scientific temperament we are talking about. It is that way. It's that way. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it is right, that let's move to the next concept, that it is about the dominant caste. A caste is said to be a dominant one. A particular caste is said to be dominating a particular area. Very well, caste is one of the forms of social stratification. People are stratified in terms of purity and pollution notion, the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, the basic stuffs, right? So a particular caste is said to be a dominant one in a particular locality based on some characteristic. It should be ritually higher in the ladder, and also that because of its numerical strength, they are the majority people, and because of that, they've got access to that agricultural lands, vast agricultural lands. So the economic status we are talking about, their access to that modern education, abroad education, higher education, and they are capable of influencing other institutions also parallelly, religious institutions, political institutions. Otherwise, the contestants from that particular caste, and they've got their own say in the legislation. That way, you talk about the whole India can be redrawn in terms of dominant caste. That we are going to give you examples. So this concept of a particular caste is said to be dominating in a particular locality, right? Dominant concept, that the very dominant caste concept propounded by Mysore Narasimhacharya Srinivas, Indian sociologist, well, especially in his, that essay on the social system of Mysore village. You come to know about this notion, ladies and gentlemen. That way we talk about. Right. The Srinivas was unconsciously influenced by the African studies on dominant clan and dominant lineage. This is what we see for every idea. You got historical root. Only when you understand the biography or socio-cultural background of that particular thinker, you will start connecting. You will start understanding the idea. See where he got that inspiration. Of course, the African studies, the dominant clan and dominant lineage. That it is that way. So that dominance, of course, corrupt his mind. So that's why his study. A caste is dominant when it wields influences. That when it is got rules, it is that way, wields power. Wields economic and or political power, occupies fairly high position in the hierarchy. Happen to be upper caste mostly, either Brahmin or mostly Kshatriya or Brahmin also in some factors you might be aware. So hierarchy, even in the traditional system of the caste, that which acquired economic and political power, did succeeded in improving the ritual status. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that way. So in the caste hierarchy, mostly they occupied the dominant position. The top hierarchy happen to be Kshatriyas or Brahmanas mostly, and also not only that, their power, that economic power, that maybe they've got vast lands, of course, control over economic resources. With that, they are capable of entrenching into, the very political, echelons of the society. But that way, ladies and gentlemen, that's what, that this is M.N. Srinivas, ladies and gentlemen. This is the book, The Remembered Village, where he spoke elaborately, ladies and gentlemen. So I thought of, the parallel showing you. It's that way. So this dominant caste, that especially he witnessed in Mysore villages, that the Lingayats, the Okaligas, that they are said to be very dominant caste. Might be aware. Lingayats, Okaligas, Lingayat, they were recognized as separate religion also, for your kind information recently, you might be aware. So it is that way, that you talk about. And Andhra Pradesh, that where you got, Reddy and Kamma, that it is that way, that even the Reddy party, Rao's party, people call, very well. It's like, Tamil Nadu, they were ADMK, but it's no more. Tamil Nadu, each and every party, that maybe Patali Makkal Kashi completely based on, the 1 year caste we are talking about. And whereas ADMK once, even today it has got, big influence of the very Devar community. The south, there are people, the down south, that the Madurai neighborhood villages, there are old ladies still believing MGR is alive. The moment they see the symbol, that I'm not, conversing for any political party, please. I'm talking about the belief, such as, given poverty, illiteracy, and the people, the influence of celluloid wool, you might be aware, it is that way, and also the caste influence. But other parties also, they're trying to balance that influence. Okay, in Tamil Nadu, of course, Gounder, especially we talk about. Maybe in North, they're called Vaniyas. Of course, when you come to Coimbatore region, the Gounders, that you talk about. And North also, they are called Padayachi or Vaniyar. Of course, Vellore and North Arcot, South Arcot district of Tamil Nadu, you talk about Mudaliyars. And in the down south, somewhat, I don't know. See, they left, it's called Devar, Mukkulatur. Devar, that? Mukkulatur, you might be aware, that. Agamudiyar, Maravar, the Kallar, that is the thing we are talking about. So the Mukkulatur caste, you might be aware, though they were dominant caste in the south, you might be aware, and it is that way. So in the Kerala, very well, Nayar, they are all examples of dominant caste in different parts of India. I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So you understand, even today it has got, forget about everything. Go to the matrimonial column of newspaper, you will see people are not ready to tolerate even subcaste. not ready to compromise. They want subcaste. Brahmins, of course, when you talk about, that Iyengar, and Iyengar, of course, that Vadagalai Tenkalai, U, Y. So it is that way. Hello, oh my God, every caste has got subcaste. People are very conscious at the end of the day. What I've given, the COVID crossed all barriers, you might be aware. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Kerala Noir we are talking about. So, Maharashtra, Maratha we are talking about. And Gujarat, Patidar, we are talking about. Gujarat, of course, you talk about. So, Northern India, you might be aware, Rajput, the Jats, and Giyar, Ahir, which has got, around 3,000 plus subcaste people call. You might be aware, even this. The Kunbi, even the Bihar, right, the Nitish. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way we are talking about. So the whole India can be redrawn in terms of various dominant castes. What is dominant caste? A particular caste is said to be dominating in a particular locality due to various factors. It will be ritually superior, the hierarchy, the top hierarchy they occupy. Not only that, the ownership over economic resources, maybe in terms of vast lands, agriculture, and not only that, the numerical strength, that's the greatest force. The majority, accordingly, the bargaining power, they demand reservation or representation in a particular political party. Even political parties are very keen to represent. Otherwise, that they will go to some other political parties. They are afraid. You know very well all these things. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way we are talking about. Of course, it is identity politics we call, trying to influence the voting behavior of the masses by appealing in the name of caste. Some people appeal in the name of language. Some people appeal in the name of religion. Some people appeal in the name of region, sons of the soil theory. And some people in terms of racism. Of course, that I can't breathe. George Floyd, that let's see how the US elections outcome going to be, the racism, you might be aware. So it is that way, ladies and gentlemen, the identity politics at the end of the day. The very dominant caste, that if you want more characteristic features on the part of, the dominant caste, ladies and gentlemen, a caste dominates when it wields economic and political power. Ladies and gentlemen, when it wields economic power and political power, it is dominating. It's not only money, and also, that their presence, that in ruling at the state power or, central power, that it is that way. So otherwise, it becomes opportunity for that particular caste, to bargain more and to give, that employment to their own caste people, and to bring a lot of government projects in that particular locality to benefit their own community. Maybe, of course, nepotism, favoritism, cronyism, in the negative side we are talking about. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen. So it has high rank. If it is done in a right way, that's totally different, free from the favor. But the hands served roses, how come you can expect the hands to be free from the fragrance of the roses? Right, that where you question objectivity or the value neutrality, but at least let them do something, let them benefit. They are after all Indians, right? So whether they won't caste people or some people, they are doing at least something. Let's appreciate, let's welcome. So ladies and gentlemen, it has got a high rank in caste hierarchy. As I told you, the hierarchy, mostly the top, that maybe Kshatriyas and Brahmins ultimately, that we talk about, that we spoke at length about this. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. The numerical strength, that the majority people, so accordingly, that they've got bargaining power, they're capable of influencing the polity in such a way, right? With coming of adult suffrage, so when you have turned 18, that the eligibility, it is that way, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the numerical strength has become very important. And even in Tamil Nadu, the Dalit politics, especially northern Tamil Nadu, 20% of the population, that you talk about, it is that way. So that's why the Dalit leaders trying to dominate this scene. Even BJP, when it was accused of, that belonged to upper caste party, the very BJP appointed one, Dalit leader, as if it's, that state leadership. You might be aware, even the president of India. So to counter all this, the accusation against political parties, they are very keen in representing people from downtrodden castes, especially Dalits, even from minorities also to some extent. You might be aware. This is all the political addressing the grievances of, that the issues by political parties. Ladies and gentlemen, okay. So, and the leaders of dominant caste help in political parties, that secure votes. So anybody contesting, election that particular constituency, I think I'm suggesting formula as political advisor. Hope you're aware, that you try to narrow down. You are already practicing, I know, because you got, some institutions, organizations to back up. You spend money. All political parties, I know, that you love your own statistics. what caste is dominant. So overall dominant leader, and who will have his own or her own say in that particular region. You try to influence them. Apart from freebies, apart from that cash for vote. So all these things happening, you might be aware, ladies and gentlemen. Let's speak pragmatic sense, ladies and gentlemen. It is that way. So even my dad, that was respected in such a way before entering into that particular constituency. Those the MLAs used to visit my their dad and get the blessings and to get the support. So all these things I personally witness. I know it is that way, ladies and gentlemen. So the reservation given to a scheduled caste, the scheduled tribes we are talking about, the intensification of the democratization and the introduction of Panchayat Raj system, local self-government, 73rd, 74th constitutional amendment, everything. These are all the things that of course it became challenges to this dominant caste or caste-based politics, because they started the taking asylum. Otherwise, constitution started favoring the hitherto oppressed and suppressed even Dalit and minority communities, and they started the representing the political arena from their own domain. Didn't, ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So they have gone long way in shrinking the influence of dominant caste. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. You might be aware. So even the that even the as I told you, the internal security related issues, the very Naxalism, even it's not only underdevelopment, maybe upper caste exploitation, the underdevelopment that pushes people to the poverty. Then ultimately they take up arms, joining Naxalites, people war group, everything in Telangana region. Well, sometimes the very encouragement by the government, even development itself pushing the people to poverty. So the people, aggrieved people, affected people, whether they are scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and they come together to oppose the government schemes, policies in such a way. You might be aware. So it is that way. So all these, the constitutional provisions are ultimately supporting even the so-called non-dominant caste to indulge in bargaining power and enforce their authority. You might be aware, that. So this is a trend also, ladies and gentlemen. Part of that we are talking about. I think it is right time for us, to discuss about education and equality. That way, one second, please. Sorry. Education and equality. Education as an instrument of social change, a tool for social change. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a saying, Karkai Nandre, Karkai Nandre, Pichai Puginum Karkai Nandre. Even by begging in front of others, if you learn something, that for the sake of education, you can also beg in front of others, nothing wrong. That is a saying, oldest saying in Tamil. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So education plays crucial role in transforming individual, and at the end, in transforming the whole society. That benefits not only individual. So the educated individual becoming role models in different parts of the world, you might be aware. It's that way. So education acts as an instrument of social change, that drives, that away the very, myth, superstition, and that gives, the people awareness with which they can, that have effective living, not only meeting the economic needs, and also, that to have civilized life, and also to be part of, that the nation building measures. You might be aware everything we are talking about. So the very education, that is it really providing equality? Has it narrowed down the inequalities, that in the society by education? Definitely, we can say yes. It's because of education, because of Dr. Ambedkar you talk about, and even one today our the president of India, he belongs to the Dalit community. Why? Can you think about the traditional caste system? Is it possible? No. Let me tell you, for example, for that one even happened in the past. You might be aware. I read in newspaper. I think I thought of sharing with you. You might be aware, one of the former presidents of India, Dr. K.R. Narayan, Kocheril Raman Narayan. That is the expansion. He's from Kerala, belongs to Dalit community. And he married Usha Narayan from Burma, and he was blessed by Nehru. That's totally different scenario. And he was part of media sometime and became ambassador representing, that India in China. And Burma also, where he got Usha Narayan, that's totally different scenario. And rose to the level of vice president and president of India. And he studied in Travancore University, Kerala. There is a customary practice in that Travancore University, that those who are all becoming university rank holders, they should be conferred, they should be given, lecturer post at that particular very college itself, institution itself. But because of the thing he belongs to Dalit community, he was refused, and he was offered only clerk post. He refused that. He did not even accept the degree. You know, the convocation certificate. Even I did not accept convocation certificate. They sent me because the day will come. But I already went to my institution as chief guest. Let me initiate. Let me also parallelly talk about myself. And what happened, right? Our, the K.R. Narayanan rejected that, did not go for convocation function and all. And such is the thing, the discrimination, because he belongs to Dalit community. So it's not blaming anybody. The system went that way. That's what caste system that happened in the past. I'm not asking you to go prejudiced against any people there. That's not our duty. We crossed all those mistakes to erase human being. So let's not commit the same mistake in the future. That's the very purpose. See the determinations on the part of the K.R. Narayanan, and he did not participate in the convocation certificate. He refused to be a part of that institution as clerk, and he rose to the level of President of India. Then he went to that institute, Travancore University, attend the convocation function where he got degree. Ladies and gentlemen, see the clear-cut example. One person gone to the level of the President of India. The injustice he met in his life because of the traditional stronghold, the caste system. That is the thing. There are so many mistakes like that in our customary practices. The people got victimized. They took in a positive way. They rose to the level, and they did not become any retaliatory measure. But today in Dalit movements, what we are witnessing, even one of the political party slogan, the core principle of that slogan is that retaliate the upper caste people. So an eye for an eye will make the whole world blind. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a different scenario. I think it will take some more time for them to understand. It's that way, ladies and gentlemen. So he took positively, he rose to that level. In spite of that, instead of going against the upper caste people, he understood society. He became the connector, connecting different communities together. That's why he adorned the position of the President of India. Ladies and gentlemen, so you have to understand. It is that way. So the education, so that gave him equality. He declared to the world, yes, we are equal. I became equal with the rest of my population by my education. Ladies and gentlemen, but we move to the next level also. We also talk about equity. What is equity? It is not equality alone. Equity, that's why we go for reservation. All are treated equal, but the past you suffered, you should be given, that some more privileges so that, it becomes level playing field. Come on, have this reservation. Even in the general category, that's what we say. All upper caste people need not be, rich people. All lower caste people also need not be poor people. That's why economic right is there. You might be aware. Even scheduled caste, that you have to incorporate, that would be nice. That there are guys from scheduled caste community having become IAS, IPS. Their kids also, that benefiting still under reservation. You can rationalize, that it should be extended to only first generation, in my opinion. That for effective implementation. So you address the very core intention of that particular the provision. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen. So the historical wrongs to correct that level playing field. So it's not only treating equal. You move in such a way. You understand the unique problem on the part of the people, and you start providing reservation accordingly. That the facilities accordingly. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that way. So equality of opportunity in education is the need of the hour. That through education, definitely equality is assured. So it is not only that, you can also excel, you can become role model. It is needed for the establishment of egalitarian society. So the people well educated, that it is not mere becoming babus, the employees somewhere for your economic benefit. That gives you mental maturity, so that you start appreciating good things from everybody. You don't divide people, rather, that you connect people, you act as a bridge. That is what the maturity. The value system you get in such a way. What happens, right? That helps to facilitate, the establishment of egalitarian society where everything is for everyone. So you take part in the process to arrest, otherwise to narrow down the widening gap between rich and poor, so that you establish egalitarian society. It's not only treating equal, you understand, you also understand the unique potential, unique problems on the part of every sections of the whole Indian society. That way, that helps you to understand education. To remove gender gap. Not only that among people, of course, that you understand inherent potential on the part of every human being, including women, including transgender. ladies and gentlemen. So one third of reservation we have given part of Panchayat Raj Institute. But it has got limited impact given patriarchal character, given caste bound traditional system, the Indian society, that it's a proxy rule you witness there. The women sarpanches never allowed to discharge their duties effectively. So in place, ultimately you see the husbands, spouse, otherwise even the sons or son-in-law, they're dominating the scene. The gender gap, gender justice will be addressed. Even rural-urban gap. I'm from rural area, studied up to Tamil medium, the till 12th standard, but no problem. So my the passion towards education made me in such a way. I'm ready to embrace the global community now. Right, I've got my own ambition. It is that way. So if you're very determined, that if you're well-learned person, that with the support of education, definitely you can bridge the gap between rural and urban areas. Even the gap narrowing down thanks to all those educational institutions, even the presence of that multiple number of the engineering colleges, even special economic zones, the industrial development, all because of that. So it is otherwise called the rural-urban continuum you call. It is urbanization you call. It is that way that the settlements that you study in such a way. So it is needed because it is necessary. It is through the education to all the people in a democracy that success of democratic institutions. So democracy may not be successful when the people are illiterate. If you want to have effective democracy, the people should be mature enough, letter and spirit. Otherwise, it is mere manipulation of numbers. You appeal the masses by for money, in the name of identity politics, caste, religion, language, region, and you get the that votes. Ultimately you dominate the scene. No, if people are mature enough, and they will not that sell their votes, they will not yield to any social pressure, right? They will exercise that the adult franchise in such a way, universal adult suffrage we call. So even the democratic institutions, that if you want the effective functioning of then part of democracy, the role of education is very crucial. Education gives awareness, mental maturity, that standing on your own, right? It is that way. So that the transformation not only on the part of individuals, at the level of social groups and the entire community, even at the society level, national level, leads to economic development, then peace, then moving to the next level of economic development, then taking part the global role. From parochialization to universalization, from little tradition to great tradition, everything, this paradigm shift. It's not where we are coming from, but where we are heading towards. Where we are heading towards. Education facilitates that process, ladies and gentlemen. It is that way we are talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it is right time. Come on. So the education and equality, the equality of the educational opportunities only that will ensure a rapid advancement of nation. Ladies and gentlemen, so it's not privileged few alone can get. So that is why that even the 25% of reservation, even under the Right to Education Act, 25% of that seats should be reserved for the downtrodden people, even in the private institution. The Free and Compulsory Education, Article 21, you might be aware. Right to Education Act speaks that way. Even minorities, that given, they can run their own institutions. Well, Article 30, 29, we are talking about part of fundamental rights. A National Commission on Women, National Commission on SC/ST, National Commission on Minorities, ladies and gentlemen. Why? To address their problems, so that that education facilitates, ladies and gentlemen. Even new education policy we are talking about, it is that way, ladies and gentlemen. It will help to develop a close link between manpower needs of the society and availability of skilled personnel. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what the problem in India. So that unskilled workforce, the government took initiative to certify that unskilled traditional, that the skills also, various schemes, that also. And not only that, that skill development of India, the 95% of workforce, informal workforce, they're talking about, that we need skilled professionals. So, and one, that advantage, when comparing with China, the English educated people working, employed in IT sector, that even call centers, you might be aware. Thanks to that, even the mushrooming of engineering colleges, on the one side you worry about quality of education, on the other side you talk about a lot of engineers, if not here in India, to cater the needs of IT company, they go abroad. Even the Middle East, they earn, they bring remittances. That's totally different scenario. As there are some countries exporting doctors, why can't we that generate, why can't we have more number of medical colleges also and produce more doctors and export to that various countries in the world. Let them bring remittances. That the generation, the export driven, what we are talking about need not be centered around products, also services. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way we are talking about. So this education will help to develop close link between the manpower needs of the society, skill enablement. It's not only IIT diploma, the engineering courses, the professional courses, and the finishing schools programs. That you talk about, that Deen Dayal Upadhyaya, the Kaushal Yojana is the very scheme ultimately, meeting the needs. You might be aware. So education through which, that you meet the equality once again. There is a judgment. It's that way. So if at all you talk about you talk about because of the equality, if at all going to be inequality of, educational opportunities, what will happen? So the difference in economic status of the home. There are some places, ultimately, you might be aware, even there is no equality between men and women in terms of that the income generation. You might be aware. So even the rural area, agriculture fields, that male people are charged different, female people are charged different. You might be aware. It is that way. So the difference in economic status, that at the same time, not only that, it's getting reflected at the home also. Women are not paid at the home. Only men are respected because they are breadwinner like. But today, that so this inequality getting reflected in the home. Charity begins at home. Then that leads to low status of women in the society also. So that leads to social attributes, gender disparities. Dad will be sitting leg crossed like this. Mom will be standing next to dad like this. That's wrong. That's wrong, ladies and gentlemen. So there starts gender. Of course, that. But you hope you are aware. That gender justice, of course, to be treated equal, ladies and gentlemen. So the regional imbalance we talk about, it's ultimately, that so the Kerala progressing forward because of that the sex ratio imbalance, the women importance. So well, it is that way. So it will have its own impact on regional imbalances also. So the very educated people with awareness and economic development and lifestyle and all social indicators at the up level, maybe western and southern states can be equated with those parameters. And whereas that India cannot be divided as north-south, as Dr. Amartya Sen said. So western and southern states on the one side, northern, northeastern on the other side. That is what the dividing India in terms of developmental paradigm, ladies and gentlemen. So the regional imbalances parallelly, it's because of lack of education, especially Bimarav states, you might be aware, and physiological difference. That so when you've got impact accordingly, the awareness accordingly meeting the economic standards and physiological difference we talk about, and the primordial practice, of course, the traditional mindset not to have girl child. And Suganya Samriddhi Yojana, the government may be announced scheme for that, but people, the government comes forward to support the girl child in terms of the marriage and education expenses. You might be aware. But the point is, that the girl is no more preferred kid, and given the traditional mindset, that's considered as that the girl child is considered as the burden, liability instead of asset. Even the previous regime also, Dhanlaxmi scheme. You might be aware, all those things we are talking about, the physiological differences in terms of nutrition standards, malnutrition, hunger, poverty, ladies and gentlemen, because you are unable to meet the economic needs, the vicious circle of poverty, and forcing the children, that to turn, dropouts ultimately, child laborers then, and even, that the poverty forcing, that lady to go for, that jobs where sexual harassment, and that the gents, because of the poverty, that guy exploited somewhere, frustration, drunkard, and it spoils the health ultimately. The children born to that parents, with faulty diseases, and already that the health infrastructure bottlenecks, you might be aware. So all vicious circle of poverty, and unable to send the kids to school, the illiteracy, the bonded labor, child labor. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that we see the connectivity, that the education is a panacea, the solution, for all this, we are talking about, and that the shelter also, you see the lifestyle difference, that vulnerable to the vagaries of monsoon, the flood, ultimately the government coming forward to provide shelter, the that you talk about slum clearance board, and maybe they settle urban poverty, that the slums, of course, urban ghetto. You talk about the disparity between backward and advanced classes. That's why the inequality that becomes sectional inequality. Education is the solution. So the non-availability of adequate opportunities, opportunities, lack of awareness, lack of accessibility, Otherwise, discrimination, it is that way. So what? So the education, that gives you all those opportunity. If not all these things, a difference in mental, so it affects your IQ, EQ even accordingly. The mental maturity and emotional balance also. How to handle things. So that even you get don't try to correct fools, because he will become angry, and otherwise he will make you feel highly vulnerable. So don't try to correct fool in the sense that lack of awareness, lack of maturity, uneducated. It's not accusing the entire that uneducated people. So that probably you can overcome all these that issues probably with maturity that gives you clarity, awareness, and facilities and accessibility, and ultimately you take part in the nation building process. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. By transforming yourself, you transform the world. Be the change that you wish to see in the world. Of course, the education, that we've got education institution in what way? So narrowing down the gap between rich and poor. We are talking about, of course, the very education and equality. We are talking about the program of expansion of the educational facilities. So the elementary, secondary, and university stages. We are talking about all these things. Even the new education policy talking about that the twice that examination in a year, so as to that improve the meritocracy. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that way. That even the native regional languages, that emphasis, and that the fifth standard, of course, that, and the eighth standard, that you talk about the board examinations. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen. Not only that, skill enablement also, that envisaged part of that particular program. The 4 years graduation. Anytime you drop out from college, you become eligible. You get diploma. You get the place somewhere. So it's that way, ladies and gentlemen. Constitutional provisions. Not only that, new education policy, where we are talking about 6% of that allocation part of the budget, 6% of GDP, you might be aware. So the constitutional provisions for ensuring equality in education in the Indian context. As I told you, free and compulsory education, Right to Education Act, Article 21A we are talking about, and education for minorities. You can have your own. The minorities can have their own educational setup without compromising the excellence in education, and safeguarding the linguistic minor. When you talk about minorities in India, as per Constitution, you got religious minorities, linguistic minorities alone. For your kind information. So Article 29 we are talking about. So special focus on education on women. So educating girls, the Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana, we spoke, that. So it is that way. Special treatment for SC/STs and other backward communities, reservation in education institutions, higher education institutions. Also, there came the controversy recently and associated Supreme Court judgments, all becoming your potential hotcakes. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So, wide distribution of institutions. There should not be regional imbalances. So forcing the people to travel long distances, whether it is schooling, college, even university, ladies and gentlemen, and provision of preschool education. You understand that way. So all these things that envisaged part of new economic policy. I mean new education policy, ladies and gentlemen. So the provision of scholarship and other facilities, etc., carried out to bring equality in education. That so many measures have been taken by the government of India. That especially to address that inequality, especially through education. When you address education, you provide complete solution. So otherwise, let me speak this way. That there is a Chinese proverb: if you give a man a fish, probably you meet out his temporary problem, temporary solution. It's not permanent solution. Rather, that better you make him learn the technology of fishing that gives lifelong support. We don't want quick fix solution. We want permanent solution. Education provides permanent solution. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. That the importance. It is that way. So that it's not only transforming individual, ultimately transforming the whole world. That it is that way, ladies and gentlemen. It's that way. The pressure groups we are talking about, of course, it is the next concept, ladies and gentlemen. What is pressure group? A particular social group pressurizing. The pressure, social pressure exerted by, they may not be part and parcel of formal organization, but they are capable of influencing policy decisions. Like, trade union movements, part of any government. Of course, All India Trade Union Congress, I believe. And, that Bharat Mazdoor Sangh, and even RSS for BJP administration. And various, that recently what happened, right? Agriculture related protest, you might be aware. That all those organizations, associations, trade unions, that the Kisan Vikas Sabha, you talk about all these things, they attempt to influence legislative and governing agencies. they exert pressure. They form movements ultimately under the leadership to promote change or to resist the change, to bring the change or to stop the change. It may be reformatory or revolutionary. Well, all those things. That India attained independence because of these. Several pressure groups. That acted from different parts of India. You might be aware. That it is a collective effort. We attain independence. We ultimately we have thrown that exploitative British mechanism. You might be aware. It is that way. So on behalf of its a special interest, so the pressure group and its special own interest, the interest of that, and even interest of the large public, the various protests happens in such a way. Even today, the Hindu editorials that came out, that one article, that's talking about, of course, majority rule is part of democracy, not the majoritarianism. It's that way. So you have to take into account the views of the fringe elements, that even the minorities, downtrodden people also. And there comes the role of those people to come to the streets to protest. It's not coming through Supreme Court to say that's wrong, we will decide where you have to go. It's total control, like police state. That is wrong. It's violation of human rights. At the same time, so the people, the people who come for protest, we have to question their rationale behind their protest, whether anybody behind that, that one particular community. This time the Shaheen Bagh, of course, in Delhi, the Supreme Court judgment associated with that, and women participation, especially that the very pious, the religious people, they never come out with parda. The women participated. So that's a positive trend on the part of minority. But the point is, who is behind you? What is your purpose? Who is sponsoring you? What is your motto? So these are all the question mark. If it is for right purpose, let's appreciate. So, but it is also a new trend. How come Supreme Court can come out with the judgment, that to decide even places? That goes against that it is spontaneity on the part of that any protest movement. So this is I think you better read that today's editorial. I think that if you can also that watch my presence in social media, you can follow that. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way we talk about. So on behalf of large public interests, what is that? So that it is that way, ladies and gentlemen. So pressure groups, sometimes individuals acting as pressure group, like for ADMK government, that Jayalalitha during that the very Sasikala during Jayalalitha administration, might be aware. Even the Sonia Gandhi may not be part and parcel of the UP administration. She was remote control there. Even Rahul Gandhi sometimes, that's why the leaders gone to the extent of that saying India without leadership. Even Infosys Sri Narayana Murthy came to public that way. So those things we come across in our day-to-day life. It's not speaking against anybody. All the stories. Ladies and gentlemen, you read newspaper, the story. So these are all the things countries that are political parties or governance mechanisms witnessing from some individuals. Now in the present context, you can say the corporate driven politics. Even corporate that leaders, they've got their own say in deciding in the schemes, policies, even budget. As you got lobby in US politics, the mechanism, you see the presence here. So they may not be part and parcel of formal organization, but they are capable of influencing the policy decision. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way we are talking about. That comes elite. When you say elite, the creamy people in any social sphere. But when the elite people are with power, you just imagine, powerful elite, they are capable of making impact, the consequences on the nation governance, you might be aware. So power elite, that this is according to C.W. Mills, especially in his book Power Elite, he spoke about this. What is power? It is the chance of men or collectivity in carrying out tasks even against the resistance. That's what Max Weber defines. There you are said to be powerful in spite of the obstacles, the resistance. When you're capable of seeing through things, you are powerful. We are powerful, ladies and gentlemen. It's that way we are talking about. So how? But this power is not uniform. That varies from person to person. There are sections of population with more power. There are people with less power. That's why constant some concept of power, variable some concept of power. But this is about that power with elite people, the creamy people. They could be, that political elites or economic elites, corporate people, or military elites. Ladies and gentlemen, the very creamy different social setups, but the intricate set of overlapping cliques, they share decisions, and they are the very powerful people, and whose decisions that impacting the nation. Especially we are talking about so see the power elite overlapping all these three spheres. Ladies and gentlemen, that elite top creamy people who have their own say. and because of that, maybe control over the political power, or economic power, or even the military domination. You might be aware, ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. That's according to C.W. Mills, and that's parallelly introducing few concepts to you. So you have to see different concepts. It is that way. So social movements, when we are talking about, it's what is movement? It's a collective effort. People come together under the leadership of one single person. As the 1950, the entry of Mahatma Gandhi, might be the whole nation came under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi. So the Indian independence acquired a leadership under Mahatma Gandhi, you might be aware. But he was a leader without title. It is that way. His ideology, the ahimsa, satyagraha, that brought down, that the very empire, British Empire, to kneel, that you might be aware it is that way. So that's totally. But he was commanding respect also, even among British people. It's because of his policy and the communal harmony, and also the very strong determination to practice, that non-violence that demands courage, ladies and gentlemen. It's that way. So under leadership, of course, that the entire nation, that they came together. Otherwise, he could, because of his ideology, the determination, he could mobilize the entire people under his leadership. That benefited India. India's independence, you might be aware. So it's a form of collective behavior. So people come together. It is an organized effort to bring about, or to resist change. Here also you talk about to bring change or to resist change. You don't want, for that also you collectively mobilize people and you enter into road. As against the Citizenship Amendment Bill, Shaheen Bagh protest came, but COVID situation they gave up. That's totally different scenario. You talk about, but at the same time I question the intention. Who is behind you? And why do you want to disturb? Why the long presence? Though it is peaceful protest, why it is that way? The rationale behind that movement is very important. That should not go against law and order. You are given fundamental right, but there should be reasonable restriction. That should not affect that law and order mechanism. Ladies and gentlemen, even the long presence, you just imagine it is that way. So it is that way, ladies and gentlemen. There comes that ruling dispensation to deal with. It is that way. So this collective behavior, the collective effort, organized effort, that to bring about change or to resist social change, it could be revolutionary, radical, or for reformation, as we have social, religious, reform movements in the past. That Rajaram Mohan Rai, Brahma Samaj, Arya Samaj, go back to Vedas. Prarthana Samaj, and Dravidian movement in the south, Sri Narayana Dharma Paripalana movement, Mahar movement, of course, Ambedkar. So it is that way. And also protests, what happened in the Tuticorin recently, that of course, and not only that, the Sterlite, and any environmental degradation, or the government's development agenda, that 8-lane projects, because of that Jindal, you might be aware. Even that what happened in West Bengal, right? The Tata Nano project, the special economic zones at the cost of agricultural land, that changed the guard. So the communist, the party rule came to an end. The Mamta rose to power. You might be aware. So it is that way, ladies and gentlemen. That it is that way. The protest movements, ultimately, that the rebellious people, that try to defy the laws. It is that way, because it is that way. That various rebellion movements, during independence struggle also we witness. That even tribal rebellious movement. Of course, here, that here in modern independent, that India, of course, you talk about to defy the rules. Of course, they'll be brought to the book. That's totally different scenario. So that's not free from, leadership gives direction, and that talks about the purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, even Dravidian movement in the south we are talking about. So it is that way, ladies and gentlemen. I think it is right time. Let me take you to the next topic. It is the family. The family, marriage, kinship. These are all social institutions. Otherwise, they are called subsystem of the whole system called society. The social institutions, when you say they've got their own structure, of course, it is written. They've got their own structure. They've got their own function. When you say structure, it is interrelationship between status and roles. Say, for example, when you say family, you got that father, mother, that different statuses, social position in that particular that setup system. Of course, subsystem called family. The role, as a dad, what you have to do. As a mom, what you have to do. As a daughter, what you have to do. As a son, what you have to do. The roles, expected behavior of a particular status. So definitely a family, you've got that status as well as the roles expected out of the status put together, called family has got its own structure, no doubt. Family has got its own function also. So that say Kingsley Davis, Wilbert Immoor to speak about this. That Rema Plasso, I say. That Rema Lasso. What is that? So, that it is reproduction happens in a family, that then maintenance of, that young ones, and placement of individuals, career opportunities, and finally, that socialization, the maintenance of the family, maybe economic function here socialization of young ones. Rama Plasso, this is according to Kingsley. There are so many people with so many, the definitions for this, functions. You say, that Shri, sexual, reproductive, educational, economic functions on the part of family. And if you talk about, the very functions of the family, according to Talcott Parsons, it is primary socialization and stabilization of adult personnel. If you don't have family, you will become mental. And today, that, of course, National Mental Day. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I think, so, all people will become lunatic given social pressure. If you don't have, that a family to tame you, your loved ones, that your affectionate ones, ladies and gentlemen, so if they are not there, that you don't know how to move to the next level. It's their affection makes you work more, energetically. So that tames you. So it is that way. So you talk about, primary socialization and stabilization of, that or taming the adult individuals. You need a family at the end of the day. So then only you are ready for the next day for the state exploitation or corporate exploitation. If you speak in negative tone, are ready to face all round challenges tomorrow. It's because of that taming. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that way. As an institution, family has got both structure and function. Structure in its functioning, a system is born. That's what family. Of course, it is subsystem of the whole system called society. Ladies and gentlemen, so family as a social institution. As I told you, when all social institutions are properly ensured, you ensure the coordination of those institutions, you ensure the survival of the system called society. It is interdependent. Family, all members, family members are now, where are they from? From marriage. Only married people live in the family, but you got question also. Why marriage to have a family, a live-in relationship? It is that way, ladies and gentlemen. So that's challenge we are talking about. Let's talk about the types of family. On the basis of the size of the family, you call, that extended family or nuclear family. Nuclear family, when you say, you will have, that husband, that wife, children. That's what nuclear family. But when you extend this family with, that our grandparents or unmarried, brothers, sisters, part of the family of any one of the spouses, it becomes extended family. So on the basis of the size of the family, a family could be called a nuclear family, or, you come out of the joint family to establish separate family for your professional reason, the urban areas, that's called neo-local family. In Tamil, it's called Tani Kuduthanam. But for important family function, you come back to the original family, joint family, to your nativity. It's that way. So the extended family, extension of the nuclear family is called extended family, where 2 to 3 generations living together, you call. Under common roof, it becomes joint family. So in joint family, rural area, you witness. India is, the unique country where you witness all these things. The Nair in Kerala, that they've got family name Tarawad. Nambudri, they've got joint family name Illam. In Andhra, they call Inti Peru. In every name, you find that. Nandamuri, Daraga, Ramarao, N.T. Ramarao. The Inti Peru, house name that talks about joint family, representing that, that lineage, the clan. Very well, it is that way, ladies and gentlemen. So joint family, based on the size, you say nuclear family or neo-local family. The extension of the nuclear family, extended family. And you got, special case in the extended family called joint family, where everything shared in common property, common kitchen, common worship. It's that way, where great grandparents to grandchildren, they live together. It is that way. So, and what happened, unfortunately, joint family system is breaking down, giving way to, the rest of the institutions in this. To take care of the young ones, you got crush. And to party Vaidyam, that a grandparent suggesting some medical prescriptions. You got hospitals now. And any family problems, ultimately, the elder ones, they'll be giving you counseling, advising you, immediately inviting relatives so that you come out of that. Nowadays, you got psychiatrists for that, counseling centers. And how, where to invest, what to purchase, you got, wealth managers. So most of, that, otherwise, you don't cook in the family itself, because you got, Swiggy, Zomato, that you just, download the app, you order, it comes with Corona now. Very well, be careful about it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about all these things, everything. Most of the vital functions, once attached with the family, they have been taken over by the rest of the modern institutions. That's why the family loosening its ground. the importance of the family to some extent coming down. But in spite of that, even today, family is wonderful institution to socialize the young one. That it is that way. That's totally different scenario. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. You talk about various types, and also on the basis of the leadership of the family, who is heading the family, male or female. Accordingly, you say patriarchal family or female-headed family, matriarchal family, the Kerala, Noyer especially, they've got that. And on the basis of the tracing of origin, father side, mother side, accordingly patrilineal, matrilineal. So, once you get married, the which side you take? Do you go and set up your family, that separately, or father side, that bride side or bridegroom side? Accordingly, patrilocal, matrilocal. There are guys, do not want to take sides, both want to have independent family. That's different because afraid of all this relative torture. That's totally different. It's up to you, ladies and gentlemen. Because that nothing comes free. When you talk about that product, no product is free from issues. No individual is free from problems. So the extent to which you deal, you become highly successful. It's that way, ladies and gentlemen. It is that way. And also when you talk about family, the sociological perspective say, when you talk about structural functionalism, it says the family is wonderful institution. The order, that the peace you witness with family, the same thing you witness in the society. Like family, like society. Because family, one of the primary agents of socialization, which ultimately through brought up socialization, exposing the members to the culture of the society, so that when you go out of the family, you never find the conflict with the society, because you are already trained in the family. Family is wonderful institute. Family is universal, and family, that through its socialization process, important functions, reinforcing the already existing social order in the society as the basic unit of society. So that is structural functionalism view. But whereas, you got another view called conflict view. They say, as I told you, right, in family, we don't treat women properly, low status of women. You exploit women, because when you go office, you get salary for all of your contribution. What about women contributing for the family? You don't pay salary, you don't equally treat also low status of women exploitation. So charity begins at home. The exploited women, the exploitative family responsible for exploitative society. There's other way of looking at things. It is that way. So conflict school of thought. So the inherent the contradiction, struggle in the family getting reflected in the society, where one group trying to exploit another group. Both sides of coin. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way we speak. So the perspectives on the part of that sociology we apply here. I think it is right time. Let me take you to the that another concept. That parallelly, of course, it is about marriage. So marriage is the first institution. After that, only you establish family. Ladies and gentlemen, marriage, it's a social institution. Again, you got status here. What is that? You talk about it when you say status, you got bridegroom and bride. Bride and bridegroom. Ladies and gentlemen, that way you talk about. Then what about role? As a bridegroom, what you have to do? As a bride, what you have to do? Status and role, definitely marriage has got a structure. But what is marriage after all? It is a biological union between male and female. It's not mere biological union, but there should be social recognition. Society should give approval. Here comes, important crucial role. Otherwise, it becomes like animal way of life. So, that we enjoy social recognition. We've got a mechanism for that. Don't worry. So, we've got a mechanism through which we establish, that we ensure that social recognition is present there. So, the marriage as a social institution has got structure as well as function. Why? That what happened, right? Reproduction of the young ones. That otherwise, that the married people entering into, sexual intercourse, of course, rest of the things. So, the very important component, social recognition given to the biological union between male and female. That is what marriage is, a social institution. So the very marriage can also be, classified on the basis of, say, a number of members involved. You talk about, that one man marrying one woman. That's monogamy. But that in the previous, of course, we crossed polygamy. So that many people involved in the marriage. Of course, that there were group marriages also in the tribal society. When you talk about polygamy, that it could be, that separately polygynous and polyandrous. You just come to know, don't worry about it. You learn more. Polygyny, here, one man marrying many women. Whereas polyandry, the Kerala practice, of course, that Nair you would have heard about, polyandry. The polyandry is all about one woman marrying many men. So, that first, that you talk about polygamous, especially polyandry first, then came polygamy, one man marrying many women. Now we are talking about one woman marrying one man, or one man marrying one woman at a time. So there could be serial monogamy also. For some reasons, that you give up relationship, you enter into another one. It is that way. That's also happening parallelly. The marriage of convenience becomes a marriage of inconvenience. It's that way, very well. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's why increasing divorce rate, all those stuffs we are talking about, the challenges towards marriage. It is up to us, that you got your own choice in front of you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way we are talking about. So, what is that? The types of marriages, when you say, it could be based on the number of members involved. Even the ancient marriages, ancient form of marriages, Arsa, Deva, Paisacha, Gandharva, Rakshasa, Ashura, Prajapatya. There are ancient form of marriages you hear, and also you talk about men of upper caste marrying women of lower caste. Men of upper caste marrying women of lower caste. Accordingly, you say hypergamy. So women of, that if it is ulta, it's totally different. Men of upper caste, high caste marrying women of lower caste, you say, that hypergamy. This is called hypergamy. But if it is happening ulta, opposite, right? That's called hypo. Ayyo, hypo. Not approved. Lower, that caste women, that especially marrying higher caste men, never allowed. It is that way. Otherwise, children born to that wedlock called untouchables. You come to know. And also you hear about anuloma, pratiloma. That's in strict caste sense. But that hypogamy can be applied for both caste as well as class sense. You will come to know. So this is not to some ideas I'm giving you. How the marriages, why you say monogamy, polygamy, polyandry. Say our, the Tamil Nadu, especially, that you would have heard about ex-chief minister of Tamil Nadu, Karunanidhi, and more than, that one wife, one man marrying many women. Even one MP, Tirunavakar sir from Tamil Nadu, that married two wives, the sisters especially we call. So, more than one wife. It's called polygamy, clear-cut example. One man marrying many women. It is that way you talk about for some reasons. It's not value judgment. It's up to them. But whereas one woman marrying many women, I'm not talking about, that's different scenario, but it's up to them. Maybe a widow remarriage, that's fantastic. We have to appreciate that way. And for some reasons, the divorce, the serial monogamy, that's totally different reasons. You might be. These are all the things we are talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, that it's marriage, then I think it is right. Don't say it is bad. You are living. Do you understand now? I'm not speaking anything new. You know everything. I'm just supplying nomenclatures, the name of sociology. I'm just connecting your understanding. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that way. So now you talk about, that the kinship. So now you got married, you established family, now you got relatives. That what's happening? Is it sociology class or establishing family, sir? Yeah, this is about society. After all, family is the basic unit of society. That is what sociology. Sociology is about, science of society, the system or network of social relationship. Social, when I said multifaceted aspects of the society, yes. So marriage, family, kinship, who are all your relatives? It's not all our relatives, that you say socially recognized. When you say a particular relationship, it should be given approval. Society should recognize that relationship. So otherwise, that particular culture should, that define. When you can call anybody as Amma. Nothing wrong. You can't call everybody as Appa. There comes, that your dad. It is, well, it is that way. So a cultural definition, because culturally sensitive terms. Got the idea? Na? You might be aware. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen. So, that cable TV uncle, newspaper uncle, we can talk that way. That we use common parlance uncle for the people who stand biologically different position, brought under a single term. But, that the wife, culturally sensitive term, that it is that way. So you got relationship in such a way, the kinship, socially recognized relationship, but that enjoys cultural definition. It's called kinship relation. Any relationship that should be recognized by the society, that the cultural definition should be there. That of course, in spite of that, we see challenges, and we are ready to break the challenges in some occasions. Well, it's that way. So your relatives could be in terms of blood, in terms of marriage. Who are all your relatives? Maybe by blood. Consanguineal. Just consanguine, just solely. You would have heard in Constitution. Consanguine means blood. Or affinal, through marriage also you get relatives, the spouse. By blood, that may be your father, mother, your siblings. By marriage, your spouse, affinal. So your relationship on the basis of the degree of, the difference. Your immediate relatives may be affinal or consanguineal. That's primary. Secondary, that say, if you are married, your wife's brother, that your brother-in-law is secondary. Because your primary, your spouse. Secondary, primary, kin of primary. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. When I say 2, 1 plus 1, primary, kin of primary, that's called secondary. Overall, say for example, that there is your spouse, and your spouse brother, that secondary relationship, maybe your brother-in-law, and your spouse brother's missus. If you talk that way, let me talk this way. You are here, and that you are, that spouse, and between you and that spouse, of course, that marriage, the affinal relationship, the spouse brother we are talking about. So this is your primary kin, and this guy, the brother-in-law to you, because he is your secondary. I'm talking, that you consider you as a male. Don't label me as male chauvinist. And this guy's, that through marriage, he has got his own spouse. For him, between them, it is primary. For your spouse, this is secondary. For you, it is direct, the tertiary. Ladies and gentlemen, so your brother-in-law's wife is your tertiary relationship. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So the degree of, that relationship I'm talking about, it could be primary, secondary, tertiary. Any relationship that goes beyond tertiary, that's called distant relatives. Don't say in terms of 1,000 kilometers, distant relatives. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way we are talking about, that the guide to kinship diagram, blood relationship, that maybe, that you talk about by marriage, affinal, it is that way. And by adoption also, you can enjoy relationship. That adoption, you adopt someone as your daughter or son, that comes again under blood. You don't adopt someone as your wife. And that's, that marriage, and you got an institution for that. That's not affinal. So even adoption comes under consanguine. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So this is all, that the kinship diagram, very well. And there are kinship usages. When you talk about, the relationship, it's not talking about mere the terms of reference, calling someone by some particular relationship. It also talks about responsibility, duties, privileges. In rural areas, you would have witnessed, that especially the joking relationship, Jijasali, that husband, wife, and wife's, that younger sister. The husband will be, the teasing her. Hey, will you marry me? That way. We have given already one girl, you just live happily, later you can think about. These are all the statements you hear in the rural areas. Even in movies you would have watched. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about. It is that way. So these are all the usages, joking relationship. And also, mother-in-law avoiding son-in-law, some physical distance. That's called, that avoidance. Father-in-law avoiding daughter-in-law, the physical distance due to social reason. That is called avoidance. And technonymously call, that you don't call, sometimes, married wives never calling a husband directly by name. My mom never calls, my dad with name, that with a relationship only, because they won't even utter the word. Hey, tell your dad's name. They won't, the respect, traditional society. But I don't think in the modern day, hey, come on, hey guy, it is that way. That's the modern way of reference. It's no more that much, that sanctity associated with the relationship. Maybe the closeness, that's not evaluating. I'm not becoming judgmental. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen. So what happened? Technonymously, you don't directly call people. The mother-in-law directly calls, that the son-in-law. Otherwise, calling, through, that through daughter's husband, like that. That my daughter's husband, my son-in-law. Not telling the name. It is that way. Otherwise, that my ex husband. That it is that way, telling that the daughter's name. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about. So the kinship usages here, you got, that the usages, it may be verbal, it may be non-verbal. You got, practice like kuvaid, people call, that when I say kuvaid, when wife is pregnant, husband want to take part in the pain of the pregnant lady. That guy will be going for, growing beard. The modern day world you witness. People say, hey, what happened? Why you are growing beard? There is, if pregnant like that. The meaning is that this guy, parallelly cooperating, taking part in the pain efforts of. So that gives bond. The women always expecting the husband to be with her, the during her pregnancy days, very well. So this origin, especially the Toda, Nilgiris of Toda, when women undergoing pregnancy, the husband will be leading the life of invalid. Like, that guy will be going for, that wearing all those, lady ornaments, as if he is going to, that give birth to the kid. He will imitate in such a way. That practice is there. So this particular practice, gelling, there happens, gelling between husband, wife more, the bonding will be more, and that lady feels more secure during that time. So that practice we call kuvaid. That happens in matriarchal setup. The counterpart of this, that you also talk about, that otherwise you talk this way, that various practices, what I'm talking about, the kinship usages that may be verbal or non-verbal, that governs the kinship relationship, that reinforces, relationship once again. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So in that sense, we spoke, the joking relationship, avoidance, even technonomy, and the kuwait. The same way, there is one term, that you talk about. The kuwait that happens in Toda, just now I say, that the pregnancy related thing, the avunculate, the term called in English uncle, avunculate. You talk about, maybe derived from that uncle, avunculate, that maternal uncle. The maternal uncle has got special right in all the affairs of the family, that the special right. So that's called, that sometimes that authority goes beyond the father of that particular family, head of the family. That's called special right, thai mom and uravu, special right enjoyed by maternal uncle. But whereas this is matriarchal setup, the patriarchal setup, you got another term that's called, that amitate. என்ற பொன்ற என்ற பிறந்த வந்திருக்காளே. So that I'm talking in Tamil, ladies and gentlemen. So your father's sister, she has got special power in your family. Sometimes her authority goes beyond your mother's power in the family. Special right enjoyed by paternal aunt, the patriarchal setup. Special right enjoyed by paternal, the maternal uncle, avunculate, we call, that avunculate. It is that way. Avunculate, ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. This is amitate. So this is in patriarchal setup. And I think in Tamil, people would have watched that Natame. I don't know what is its version in Hindi. Natame, that how the paternal aunt has got special right in all affairs of the family. But in matriarchal setup, the maternal uncle has got special right, especially in Kerala. So it is that way. So these are all the various usages, the kinship usages, may be verbal, non-verbal, and that reinforces the relationship once again, governing the relationships in such a way. So so the marriage, that family, then you're talking about relatives. These are all the various institutions, that basic institutions, part of, that the society, you might be aware. Ladies and gentlemen, after that you reach the society through educational institution, economic institution, political institution, religious institution. This is all to some extent homebound, you might be aware. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. But these members are coming from society only, all the members of the marriage or family, even kinship, what you're talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, this is about transgender justice. You can't have control over your birth, your gender. Got the idea, no? That is the point ultimately, that we've got a sudden mutation. In Tamil, there is a saying, Sandhi Pizhai pola Sandadi Pizhai. You don't know whether you are male or female. It's not in your control. That's some, that alteration, of course, that sudden mutation happens in your body. So the male becoming female, female becoming male. That one, that the Commonwealth Games, that sometimes the awardees are striped off because of gender test fail. You might be aware all those things happening. He becomes, she. This particular practice, that we talk about, that when there was, unemployment in the European countries, that especially the unemployed people, the fair complexion, they came to, Thailand, and they went for, human genital transplantation. The he becomes she, and resorting to prostitution. It is that way. These are all the things happen in the history, and hope you are aware. It is that way. So that the people, the transgender going for, the genital transformation, of course, to resort to commercial sex worker practice, that's happening in some places. You might be aware, ladies and gentlemen, and some, Southeast Asian countries, we hear of those, the practices, that Thailand, Bangkok, people, once you say you gone there, what is the very purpose? You can also be disciplined guy when you go there. That's a different story. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So lesbian, gay, the bisexual, transgender, put together called LGBT community. We are talking about transgender, that in general, transgender justice we are talking about very recently, that these are all modern challenges. we face in the world, right? Of course, that may question the very reproduction ultimately. If then it's not going to be marriage between male and female or female and male. Even in the marriage, the challenge is when you talk about why it is the marriage between male and male, why it is always between, that, I think I justified that. Why the marriage is always between, male and female? Why not it is between, that male and male or female and female? Homosexuality, lesbianism. Question? Of course, that goes with the taste of the person. That and all the things happening. Of course, there comes, adoption and surrogate mother. There is one lady ready to, that rent out her, that stomach for bearing the kid. That has become great employment industry for, Indian women also. And that's a booming industry in the European market. We are, associated cases. A lady can bear, that 3 kids per person, up to that 3 person she can offer the service. So 9 kids is not going against small family now. Surrogacy, other. And if at all that lady dies during pregnancy, and if at all that lady inherits some, it's not sexual, asexual, well, it is that way. And what about when the child becomes, grow on the grown-up position, becoming, great leader? Can she, that you in the court, the very, the inheritance, whatever may be the stuff? And what about the psychological relationship between the so-called mother and so-called, the genital father? All these things we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So this and all, when society is becoming large and complex, issues are becoming complex, and that they should not be marginalized. They should be, that hitherto we spoke about, minorities, downtrodden people, of course, Dalit, that and you have to take into account gender justice. It's not mere gender justice. You talk about transgender justice also. So modern legislations coming up, even the application form, you get transgender, and we started giving reservation. And there are, that in the Mumbai MLA representation, you might be aware. So the first transgender, MLA, and you talk about the same way, the Indian Police Department recently won SI. So we talk about that way. How do we accommodate these challenges? How do we deal with challenges? Even when there was UPA government, that the very calculated words by the then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. So, without affecting, that the morality of the society, they should be given. Because we gave way. Even, the very Prime Minister Modi talking about the employment generation for the LGBT community, well. So in favor of, everything we are talking about. So even, the 15 countries already gone, even 15 states part of the United States of America passed legislation in favor of LGBT community. That's not against the law, gave approval. Ladies and gentlemen, all these things we are talking about, it is that way. I think, that these are all the serious challenges, the complex mechanisms, what we are talking about, that hope you are aware, it is that way. So this, that the justice, how do we enforce through legal mechanisms so that they are not getting marginalized and their interests appreciated because they've got fundamental freedom. They've got their own, the choice to choose spouse, the live as the, of course, the national, these are all the things, that evolving. The humanity is in evolving. That's a challenge. Accordingly, the legal institutions come up with, laws, so that they are accommodated in such a way. That I heard that interview. If I go and say in front of anybody, I'm a transgender, people should say, so what? That should be the awareness, the expectation on the part of that particular gender. But it will take time. You can't expect, that, so, you might be, when transgender goes, how molested. Even movies, when Shankar's movie, that Osma Jasmine, I think, there came protest from, that Tamil Nadu Aravanis Association, the transgender society. They should not be portrayed in such a way like, that very bad mode. They should be, they're treated like respected, that they should be treated, that in a respectable manner. So all these things we are talking about, the issues, how do we accommodate them? That it's inclusive governance. It's not excluding anybody. So that leads to, that of course, that you might be well. You're talking about, that in democracy, rejection leads to isolation. Not only that, the very gender justice, what we are talking about, it is a human right, of course, that. So every woman and girl is entitled to live. The same thing what we spoke about transgender justice. Here we are talking about gender justice. You know the difference between sex and gender. When you talk about sex, you are talking about addressing only physical attributes, whereas gender, you add, that social dimension to that physical dimension. Masculine, feminine. It's inappropriate to say sex. It will be appropriate to say gender. Social attributes. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So every woman and girl is entitled to live in a dignity and freedom without, any fear. So gender justice is all about, that And even that this year the gender gap we performed poorly. I'm sorry to say this. And human development index that we did well, global competitive index and gender gap index that we did not perform well. I'm sorry to that. So it's that way you have to understand how women are treated that here in India, that goes with education, that goes with government policy. Though there are a lot of efforts on the part of the government to provide even one-third of reservation in the Panchayat Raj institutions, but in spite of that, the patriarchal mindset, male chauvinistic attitude on the part of the people, and but we are all political parties are they came unanimously rejected the one-third of reservation in the parliament. You might be aware. So we have got the very that low size, of course, that small size, 78 women MPs. And all the stories. The gender justice that is indispensable for the development. That's why we emphasize women education, women centric programs, even the microfinancing, the role of self-help groups. So when women benefit something that benefits the whole family. When man benefits something, that guy will never share with the family. He becomes that selfish person. That I've seen personally in so many families. But whereas when the girl earns money, that will benefit the whole family, and all these male guys will be fighting to get the share of, even to cheat, exploit the women. That's happening. There we talk about gender justice. And the very system, patriarchal system, is to support that only women. Even the mother is in favor of that boys, sons only, not in favor of the girl. Both parents that are responsible for that. These are all the things we are witnessing. The traditional patriarchal mindset, that there is no justice. There is judgment, is that way. So of course it is there out of ignorance. For them that is the greatest thing. There are so many things beyond that we see in the world. The exploitation. That's why recent judgment that came when daughter is daughter throughout her life, whereas son becomes son ceases to that end a son the moment he gets wife. The Supreme Court judgment, Arun Mishra, Justice Arun Mishra recently came out, that Hindu Succession Act, Section 6, especially, that even after the death of, the father of the daughter, he has got every right to receive. And of course, that some mechanisms, some cheating, exploitation happening, the Supreme Court should come and tell you, no, don't cheat your daughter. Such is the scenario. It's not only here. Even in the fundamental duties, the 11th duty is all about, it is the duty of the, that the parents to educate his or her own, that son or daughter. You need 11th fundamental duty of the Constitution to come and tell you. But we've got, history. Of course, that in Tamil literature especially, that is literature, part and parcel of the culture. Of course, language. But you may not be knowing, people from other states, that ஈன்று புறத்தல் எந்தை கடனே சான்றோனாக்குதல் தந்தைக்கு கடனே in Tamil. So the mother says, my duty is to give birth to the kid. But as a dad, your duty is to make her, that scholastic. ஈன்று புறத்தல் எந்தை கடனே சான்றோனாக்குதல் தந்தைக்கு கடனே. It's the duty of. So there we talk about the responsibility of, that the parents, that to educate, to make the kids, that scholastic in future. So why you need, that 11th duty? Such is the scenario. Got the idea? Na? You need Supreme Court judgment to tell you, that don't treat your daughters badly, don't exploit her, don't cheat her. That see, it is such is the scenario. The traditional mindset, even the 1/3 of reservation part of Panchayat Raj institutions has got limited effect because of the patriarchal nature. Ladies and gentlemen, the male chauvinism, the custom-bound, traditional-bound society, not appreciating the justice. That is the thing we are talking about. That's a poor scenario. Parochialization, narrow-minded people, they are yet to learn. Let's of course they are blessed with ignorance. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So the poverty reduction and even the crucial that to achievement human progress, everything we are talking about. So realizing it includes the sharing of power and responsibility between women and men at home and in workplaces. That as a team we can work in such a way, and wider national and international community. That's why the emphasis on women education. All gender injustices should be that sorted out immediately. All government schemes may not be successful without the involvement of women. Social inclusion, ladies and gentlemen, women-centric programs. That. So even the family, that if it is run by women, it has got different. If it is run by the male person, it has got different. You understand the style of difference. Women are capable of, even the Niti Aayog World Bank statements in such a way, the women are very keen in addressing the issues properly. That the emotion, the heart touching, the human face will be there. When the male dealing, it is emotionally neutral. Economy wise, it is good, but there may not be human face. So that is the accusation, but it's not accusing. There is no watertight compartment, that's overlapping. Ladies and gentlemen, in spite of that, you see in practical sense, ladies and gentlemen, and if you ask me what are all the resources to be consulted for all the, the basic concepts we discussed so far, please, refer, the very IGNO materials, even, that, especially see, the William P. Scott, especially William P. Scott dictionary. Even the dictionaries, you got variety of dictionaries, not only William P. Scott, Oxford dictionary available in sociology, even Penguin dictionary. Please refer. Even advanced level, you got Duncan Mitchell dictionary. And the textbooks, Harlambas, even Shankar Rao books will tell you lot of these basic concepts apart from IGNO materials. These are all very, very important, the foundational concepts part of sociology, without which, ladies and gentlemen, very well we can't understand the questions. Even to understand the syllabus perspectives, we need the support of the foundational concepts like this. Please go through and take into account, ladies and gentlemen. I think it is appropriate time, that hope you would have benefited out of, that my presence and in adding value to your understanding, so that you score more. The agenda 450 plus out of 500 is highly realistic. That's why the step-by-step approach, apart from perspectives, thinkers, the basic concept series we are talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, and I appreciate your participation and passions. Let's meet that tomorrow with another topic. That till then, bye, signing off. And before there, please that take into account, this is Success Sampath so far interacted with you and welcoming you once again to Unacademy. Please use this referral code success to avail maximum 10% discount. Please go for iconic program that gives you a lot of benefits so that you become officer at once. That appreciate you once again. Very that I should appreciate you that for your passions. Thank you. Bye bye, ladies and gentlemen. Let's meet tomorrow. Thank you.